tomorrow. Ciao.
Ciao.
Hey guys, welcome in. Busy afternoon. We're getting some more headlines right now, sending the market back to the upside from the White House, essentially just reiterating the fact that they have not made a decision on Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan, which seemed to provide a bit of an uptick to the futures. That's the way things look right now, about 0.5% for the S&P to the downside, 0.5% for the Dow and the NASDAQ, 0.4. So we are still in negative territory, but there was a bit of a bounce there. As I mentioned, let's have a look at the overall board, see where we're at as far as individual names are concerned. This is the energy group up here. So front and center energy stocks still pretty weak. Oil continues to slide, about 30 minutes or so to go in the pit session for crude oil. Boeing, 6% on the day. It was more than 7 at one point. After the 787 ruling this morning, deliveries can continue. If you missed it, so a nice day for Boeing. This is PKI and earnings name today. Some of the consumer staple names back to the upside, Procter & Gamble, CL as well. Some of the food-related names also nicely higher on the day. Ford having a great day. It was on the watch list this morning. We'll touch on Ford coming up here, 3.6% to the upside. GM being dragged along with it. Tesla has since given back some of its gains. RCL, we talked about very, very briefly this morning in the pre-market about an offering. So there was a debt raise this morning, down 10.5% for RCL, dragging some of the cruise operators along with it. Expedia is here, CCL, NCLH as well. This is the banking sector up here, top left, leading as far as decliners are concerned, along with the energy sector. So very mixed kind of afternoon. We are down, but trying to bounce currently, although it sounds like we're getting a bit of a downtick once again for futures. Hope your afternoon is going well. Welcome to a brand new month, a brand new week as well. Yeah, that was a quick reversal back to 4105 on the S&P. Just having a look at Ford. We'll talk about Twitter here. There's a few headlines on Twitter. Back to the upside for Twitter. But let's get into a bit of a review to kick things off. Neil is going to lead the way this afternoon. We'll touch on all the stocks we were dealing with this morning, including Ford. But Neil's going to kick things off here with a look at Boeing.
Yes, that's right. Boeing is your trade of the day here today. Lots of good long opportunities in the morning. A little bit of a reversal here happening in the afternoon. Now, they got the catalyst, 787, coming back online. Things looking good for Boeing. And let's be real, the daily chart actually is pretty impressive for them the last little bit. But I'm just going to zoom in here with the 60-minute and just kind of show you the last about month or so. And it's all about this double top at 164. Now, sometimes you're going to get a gap up past the level of concern, right? So you're not always able to take level breaks, roughly a 168 top here. You can't always take those level breaks in the live market. A lot of times you're going to gap above a level like that, and it's about how do you want to play it. So the old adage that in momentum moving stock to the upside, significant resistance levels break and they can turn into support levels. And that's exactly what I went with here today. And the other side of it is make sure you can stay with the trend. So right off the open, that 164 was definitely that first line that on a dip I wanted to get long. And we're very fortunate, right at 9:30, there was a bit of a failed breakthrough 66. That'll be important a little bit later. And then a dip right into 164. Sometimes you get lucky, but you got to be honest. When everyone's looking at the exact same chart, if you're bullish on the stock and it starts dropping in, lots of people want to be long in this area when there's a positive catalyst, when the market's been strong, when it feels like this is the Monday post-rate hike that we're actually going to follow through and have a strong upward day. So you get something in, pretty happy about it, and then I can tell you the way that wick candle came down, I was actually pretty convinced we were going to sit there beneath 166 and consolidate before we went. Some of it's the bias of having traded Boeing in a similar move before, watching it go sideways, even test the low again before continuing. In this particular case, we scalped some out and immediately regret that decision. And then we're all the way up, rejecting 168 at the high, wick top through that 66, and I'm out of the trade. At this point, I'm saying to myself, look, it just gave me 64 to 68, which is a good portion of my target, but I want to play with the trend. This is something I've been trying to do a little bit better. You don't have to just have one trade and hold on to it. What you can do is then if we get that consolidation, I can then work the long off that 166. If it starts holding that higher low, instead of waiting for the breakout trade, instead of just sitting there and holding a small portion from the bottom, if it breaks a low, I'm already out at this point. If it forms a consolidation, I'm buying the consolidation off that previous 66 level, and then I'm playing this to that 168 breakout. Now I'm in the money as it tries to take out that high. At that time in the day, the other thing I'm considering, once you get past 10 o'clock, I wanted to trail it. We end up trailing it when we fail that 170. We get trailed out at a 169. But then you talk about the next level to the upside, 164, 166, 168. Now you have a nice double top 168. The break that we did not take, we've paid ourselves already twice on separate trade. Both was a scalp trade and then holding a good piece. Then we retest 168, that former breakout price, buy it on the dip. Should have been add in here. I can cop to that one for sure. And then not nearly aggressive enough with our out. I actually get in at about 68.33. I know it was 68.33. It should have been tighter to 168 for sure. Should have added at that price. But we take some out in front of 69s and then again hold it for a trail. We end up getting to this level here. It was a bit of a break at 170 and a half, ticked above 171. You got one of those wick off tops that's going to end up getting me out. Ended up being near the high anyways. And then what am I trying to do in the afternoon? I'm simply trying to buy that same and support that breakout price. Not quite able to get that fill, and it's off to the races. The key thing here is you can play that trend. You don't have to buy once and hold. Every trading style is different. Our sponsor, Day Trade the World, this trade today is brought to you by them. When you have the ability to capitalize and take multiple trades for low fees like we can here, you can get in 3 separate times with multiple exit points to make it a little bit more nuanced of a trade and get paid many different ways. There's your trade of the day on Boeing.
Nice one. In fact, Boeing back to the upside currently with the overall market here trying to bounce again. The Defense Department, Kirby, making some comments right now about this apparent trip to Taiwan from Nancy Pelosi and whether or not it is going to happen or not. That's the link to the watch list, guys. Make sure you grab that every day. We send it out before we come on at 8:30. Absolutely free. Use a QR code. Super easy. It'll take you right to the page. You sign in with your email, and you can have that going forward. Let's talk about RCL. Just saw RCL trying to hold this bottom as well. I'll show you the story here in a sec, but 34.75 was that low. We're trying to get back to the upside, down 10% today on this. $900 million convertible notes coming for RCL. So cruise lines under pressure. There's the note on Boeing, though, rising after they were given the clearance, essentially, for their plan to resume deliveries of the 787 Dreamliner. So a nice look for Boeing back to the upside. A ton of different angles here. We can talk about China a little bit as well. Lots of things influenced by some headlines coming out of China over the weekend and also overnight as well to start the new week, including some of the EVs, NIO, Xpeng and Li Auto end up being pretty good fades to kick things off this morning as all of these, including Tesla, it's worth mentioning, all back to the downside.
Yeah, look, and I'll be one of those people that wishes that I had more than just the Alibaba fade. Like I liked pretty much like one stock to the short side this morning, with the exception of AMTD, because you guys all remember that has to do with HKD. But NEO, I actually like this one to the long side. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I was looking for it initially off of 1950 for the dip buy. When that didn't happen, you got the usual sort of like sell off on the delivery numbers into the open, and then it tried to rally. It failed to break here at 2050. You then pop down, doesn't take out the low. Okay, well, if you don't do that, I'm usually looking for that consolidation breakout. Things look like they were okay. Didn't get it on the way up, but I tried that 2050 long on the way back in. Got right up to the double top at like 2075. And then just completely rejected it. Even if I just held on to this and averaged in, you know, you're not doing any better than the 2075, which ended up being the high anyways. And as we look at it now, the only area of concern for NEO, it's still up 2%, but let's remember we gapped up off these levels. Like the only concern right now is can it hold out for 20 and then back into that 1985. That's the morning low. That's your Friday high. So that's the area that needs to hold in the afternoon. Yeah, you'll see us up 2% or you'll see NEO up 2%, but the story is probably that it's been a lot of selling since we made those highs. Like the market continued to make tops. This couldn't make a second one and started reversing a little bit earlier than everything else. So once again, it tends to be a bit of a sell the news event here for NIO. It just seems like that's going to be the pattern. That's the one I was favoring today. And I'm not saying, like, it's not like it was a bad trade. It certainly could have been a heck of a lot better than we put in. Relatively tight stop there, able to take profit. So I can't complain about it, except for the fact that that looks like a heck of a lot better short than any long I could find.
Yeah, and this morning we came in and I was looking at XPEV. I'm like, okay, of the three names that we're going to take a look at, Li Auto, NIO, and XPEV, which one do I go with? Yeah, I like the XPEV chart a little bit better. If we found stability here around 24.50, potential longs against 24. Not as simple, apparently, because the trend is to the downside, unfortunately, on XPEV. After starting off strong, trending down, it looks like we're finally catching somewhat of a buy move. If we can get back above 24.50, potentially the trades are still on the table for a long, but the market has to cooperate at the same time. We're at past 2 o'clock at this point. We've got 2 hours for this trade to work out. Do I really want to go into this long if I don't have the market? No, absolutely not. But XPEV against the 24, potentially on the table. But this, like a lot of these names, they haven't really done a whole lot. Neil went through it. XPEV hasn't done a whole lot in terms of opportunities. It just chose that it wants to start at 25, go down. Now went as low as 24.20 and now bouncing back up. So you really don't have that many choices when it comes to figuring out trades in this market. I'm sure there's going to be other names and other sectors that we can focus on there, Brendan, that give us better opportunities.
All right. I was going to mention BABA here, but I just noticed a couple of people still talking about this. QRTEB, still an absolute crazy show this afternoon, back to 14 after breaking 15 very briefly there. A couple, this is only one of two of those crazy 5-symbol or 5-letter symbols moving around this afternoon. Both very, very low float type runners on the back of HKD is the other one. I'll be okay. BABA was on the watch list this morning. They came out overnight. I was talking about a few things happening overnight in China. This was one of them. BABA saying that they're going to do basically whatever they can to maintain their New York listing after the SEC said at the end of last week that they had added Alibaba to their list of possible delisting candidates as far as Chinese ADRs goes. So, I mean, BABA ended up being a bit of a fade as well, guys.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully it was the only thing that I really liked to the short side. So you see I'm still in it. It's only down 0.5%, but ever since, and I think when we talked about this in the show, not necessarily the 200-period moving average, although we did like it when it got below there to start working into a short. It's what it started doing here when it tried to bounce off the 50 and rejected 107. Like first it was just giving you daily shorts at that price, and that worked down to 105, and then eventually 103 became resistance. We just broke 100, and I've just liked the short until we break the trend. So yeah, I get it. Like they responded positively, and the first thing I tried when I sat down was I actually wanted the 90 short when it broke. I wasn't aggressive enough with the order. I think I crossed 10 cents to 89.90, didn't get the fill, didn't chase it. All of a sudden we come back into the open. It tests it once. I don't quite get the fill up there. It goes to 89.80, pops all the way down to 88. Next thing you know, on the way back, I'm starting to test the rollover. So I get in a bit too early, not waiting for it to curl. So I hold off until it fails a break. And it fails a break of this consolidation at 90.50 from the pre-market. And the second you had that wick top, it's like, there you go. Let's get in. We got some 90.15s. We're able to take some out there about 50 cents, working it to VWAP, and then sort of getting right back in at the same level. At this point, it's worth keeping in mind, I got out twice and only held on to a small portion because the market was really strong. And I did think, look, there's a chance here that after all these down days, BABA shows enough strength to bounce off VWAP again, make a flag, and break out. At the same time, NIO was showing some signs that it wanted to do that. As a matter of fact, that was long NIO at this point. But it turns out that getting out at VWAP, or at least a couple times, didn't make sense. Once it broke, it just hasn't threatened the trend back to the upside. As a matter of fact, I should probably address my trail here and get it even tighter than it is right now, because it needs to get back above 89 at least, if not 89.25 for my trail on Alibaba. So it's still red. The market is now trying to make a bounce off of the lows to the upside. If BABA doesn't want to get to 89.25, decent chance we can revisit these lows. I've still been looking for it to get to 88. Maybe the market isn't weak enough for that, but BABA's been a short till it's not. Until it takes one of these levels out to the upside and then gives like a consolidation and takes another level out, like gets to 95, it's probably going to be a favorite of mine to come in and be fading. So still in it. Will adjust my trail, of course, because only a couple hours left in the day and have to take it out at some point.
Yeah, and I mean, BABA was, you had a choice this morning. You came in, BABA was one option, JD, PDD, all your choices in terms of playing with these ADRs. And I chose to go with JD. It just looked better. The way it gapped down, then went sideways. I figured going into today's low, or this morning as we took out Friday's low, it'd be a decent trade to work with. It was so fast though. By the time it broke 58, it was already trading at 57. So it was quick, it snapped all the way back, and then here we are back to where we started. I don't know what to make of this, make of this info here. There isn't a whole lot to work with. It's done its move, but here's the thing. Although you may not have captured today's move, I did not, but at least it's giving you levels of interest that it wants to that you should pay attention to. Clearly, they want to work with this 58.5 to 59. That's something you want to draw up. You see this high around 60 into 60.5, Thursday's low and also Friday's high. That's an area you want to work with. This is what you get when you can't find the trade. You get information that you could potentially use for another day. So definitely keep this in mind. PDD, JD, BABA, these levels, when you get to them again, definitely pay attention to them. Before we go back to Brendan, I actually wanted to take care of one thing. I know in the chat there was a question regarding NASDAQ action. Now this will tie into individual names themselves, but in terms of action for the NASDAQ, technically, it makes sense why we're backing down from 13,000. This is a very big area. This goes all the way back into mid-February. February into March, and then we spent some time there in April, and then bounced back into early June. Here we are again. And this market has to make up its mind how it's gonna go. So when the market is still deciding which way to go, you're gonna get this kind of action, which is like moves up, then complete reversals, and now we're waiting on Pelosi and all the news attached to that. This market is at an inflection point, because if you get above 13,000 with strength and maintain strength, you've cleared action going all the way back into February. So upside strength is there. It makes sense for this market to take off. If this market's catching offers and it decides to back down and we end up losing 12,700, we may have double topped here this back from June, and we could actually head back down. So this is gonna be what it's like until we either break 12.7 to the downside or clear 13,000 to the upside and stay strong above it. So just be aware of the action you're gonna get at least until this area gets cleared out.
All right, let's go to Tesla, guys. A busy afternoon. We had Tesla on the watch this morning after what happened on Friday. Big move up, obviously, on Friday. There was a bunch of headlines coming out of the weekend for Tesla as well. Nothing significant, but this was a really nice move through that pre-market high this morning. Gave you a nice push to 935. We're trying to get back above 900 currently, but Tesla even drifting back to the downside here as the market starting to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, look, I wish I could say that I had a great set of trades on Tesla. Didn't really. Had a 95, had a 25 break that didn't really work out all that well, and it could have if I was a little bit more patient with it. But I was buying some tops, and everything else that worked was a dip buy that wasn't a semiconductor name. That being said, if there's anything I got to take away from this, it's the initial weakness that it showed on the first break of 925 that fell through. When we started rejecting the same price, there were some signs that that could have been a short. So that's what I'm taking away from the Tesla trade. It was like if it was kind of weak and hesitant and shaking people out there on 25, when a lot of times, quite frankly, and it's been strong, it's been a heck of a lot stronger than this, I should have recognized that weakness and maybe thought about the short as it failed at 925. It's a little bit late now. It is worth mentioning we just had a bit of a wick top through 900. That's a pretty decent sign of weakness. And to take it a step further, your 200 period got breached and rejected here today. When this is setting up on like my 15, all I see is Friday's high, essentially try to put in, you can call it a head and shoulders, whatever you want, but if we fail 885, and the futures are kind of like this as well in the overall market, there's just some serious room for us to pull back in here on Tesla. For now, it is holding, but that 900 wick top is not a great sign. It's one of the bigger names in the S&P 500. Certainly, it's going to be hard for us to get back to green today, let alone rally this week. If Tesla starts giving it up, When you look at this chart, this is your classic like wick top at the open rejection and gives it all the way back. That's usually a pretty bearish setup. And then you start seeing the lower high form resistance. That'll be 920 or so that I'd be consider looking at Tesla. We've been favoring the long side for the last little bit, but there are definitely some signs that we could have like a temporary pullback, at least in the case of Tesla, to be sure there. I don't have any entries just yet. I'd like to see, if we can if we bounce another time off of these lows, you might be patient with some of the ideas for shorts in the afternoon here. I already am sitting in a couple of shorts and definitely want to be looking at Revlon, which I think is next on this. We'll get to Revlon in a second.
Yeah, Tesla is acting like what's on my cup here. It says it's classy, sassy, and a bit smart something. That's my teacup right there. And that's how Tesla's been playing this game. The way that the Tesla's been moving up is trying to be fancy. It's just trying to be extra here with the straight move from 780, crossing 800, all the way up to 930. It's got to take a break at some point. It does not mean that the trend is over. If you look at the daily, they spent a decent amount of time putting in a solid base here. And now we've accelerated past 800. Yeah, we got up to 930. You dip down a little bit, it's perfectly fine for Tesla to go down and back into 825, 800. There's a ton of volume waiting there. So it's expected in a way when you run this hot, you're either going to, at some point, blow off the top and just go sideways, or you're going to pull back. And that's perfectly okay because that's part of a healthy trend, right? Although this is not really trending yet, but it is breaking back up to the upside after spending a good, from May until about mid-July, putting in a base here, sub 800. So we'll give it a chance, but Tesla definitely looking pretty solid in terms of fundamentals. And if you look at the 30-minute chart, this kind of trend is never going to last forever. It's got to take a break at some point or even sideways. So expect it to happen. And that's what Tesla's doing there today. Started at 900, took off, followed the market up, follow the market down. Keep in mind, Tesla's also the number 4 in terms of weighting in the NASDAQ, right? So if NASDAQ's having an issue at that 13K and Tesla has been running in a trend and is starting to go a little sideways, they're going to kind of work in tandem with each other. So for now, Tesla's taking a break, but does not mean the trend is over just yet.
All right, let's go to Revlon, the big one this afternoon, popping up on this note that came out about 1 o'clock. $1.4 billion bankruptcy loan approved for Revlon. So back to session highs once again. Yeah, 2.6 times right now volume on REV, guys, back to the upside again.
Going to get to Revlon. I've been waiting to talk about this one, but looks like Devon Energy is halted.
DVN.
Because the DVN halted news pending there, guys. So just watch out for that one. We'll get to that in a second. But the number that I think matters here for Revlon is 60%. That is the short interest, and that's where sometimes the rationality of worrying about the fundamentals, can kind of get you to go sideways here. But ultimately, this is about a pure momentum play now with that heavy short interest. Responds by breaking out on big volume on Revlon. We'll see if it has sort of like the strength to follow through. It's dipped back down in here to VWAP and like 570 a couple times. It's kind of where I'm sitting now, just sort of in front of that 70. Maybe give it to 50s there in case we get a late day rally. It's pure momentum at this point. Like I wish I could have said I had this and was watching it on the 5 break or something like that. I was not. I was recovering from eating way too much sushi, which is a problem, by the way. I definitely had at least 5 or 6 pieces too much. It was delicious, that sushi, though, and the fries that you got me were nice. I just didn't need to eat all of it. So I'll blame that for why I don't have the 5 break. That's a terrible excuse. I'll buy in front of VWAP here. When I showed you guys the daily chart, there's bag holders in the 6 range, 6 to 6.5. So I feel like it's got to clear through some of that first. That's why I would rather buy the dip instead of look at the high of the day break, which I'm not saying it doesn't set up. It's got a decent little top there. Maybe it consolidates and breaks the high. I'd rather play into that, whether that's holding through a 570, maybe stepping up a little bit into 580 for a touch and try to get a decent average price, as opposed to just buying highs, which I find there's a certain type of stock where blindly buying the highs has been working out. Revlon hasn't generally been one of them. On the way up, HKD was, but we'll see if Revlon can do it here today. I want to be bidding in front of VWAP. If it does the break, I definitely want to pay myself out between 6 and 650. That's assuming I even get the long.
I just had to laugh when you said too much sushi. And I'm like, wait, I had sushi and I had a steak and then I went for a walk and then came back and ate more sushi. So, yeah. Talk about Peter asking sushi versus steak. Both is the answer, at least in my case today. Rev, it's going to be one of those trades where it's a momentum. It's purely a momentum play. You really can't technically structure anything. If you were on top of it at 5, it was an easy runner to 6 o'clock, not 6 o'clock, but 6 even. And now it's stabilizing and trying to go back to 6. It's not my cup of tea. So my cup of tea is over there in the fancy glass, in the cup. But it's one of those.
I got tea too.
Oh, you got the Trader TV one?
I got peppermint tea though.
So did I. I got peppermint.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, peppermint tea all the way. But the way Rev's going, it's going to have to be fully momentum. That's just the approach that you're going to have to take with it. Maybe overnight it goes sideways or gives you kind of a base to work with technically, but a lot of these names are going to be momentum-based runners, and that's what you're seeing right here. So I really don't have a whole lot I can add because this is not my strength, right? This is not how I play my game. So for me, I'm just going to let it go and see what else Brendan's got.
Guys, we'll talk about Ford. This is Devon right now. It's halted. I haven't found the news yet, but as soon as I do, I'll pass it along. But yeah, DVN, halted news pending. That is not a small stock. Ford up 4.2%, Randy. Yes. Quite the day. After a pretty impressive week last week as well for Ford.
The way you said it, I'm like, hey, is Randy coming on here? Why not, right? Yeah, like Ford was, and it did the thing too, by the way, this morning where Ford did the dip into a bit of a rip. And that's what I was looking for. I'm not gonna lie. We were trying to play breakouts on Ford. And I'll go to the 15 just to give you an idea of what happened when they gapped up. You know, you had the gap up last week. You're looking for 14 longs. It dipped, then gotcha. I was thinking we'd see the same thing where you get a dip, maybe deeper into the 14, 20 range, where you're playing off that breakout that we got late last week, and it just never happened. Like it comes maybe 20, 30 cents away. I was too patient trying to get a lower price in Ford and missed the rally. And then when the other day where I'm buying the dip in here, I'm in too early, right? So this is kind of like the way usually the market is it works out really well, then shows strength after that. The next time people are like, whatever, if it's gonna pay you off on the dip, then I can sort of jump in halfway, and then that actually stalls the move out. Strong market this morning doesn't hurt as well. The trend is gorgeous for Ford. I'm not sure it runs into a ton of resistance. Once it gets past 1550, I think you're clear sailing to the 200 period moving average, another $1 higher. But with a weak market, it might be trouble getting past that 1550 today. So, unless we're screaming to the upside, I think that should be a decent resistance level here in today. People that are long, if you did cash this long, you're probably, I don't know how you're not considering trailing it, whether you're trailing to VWAP or maybe, like 1510, somewhere in VWAP, 1520, that would make a lot of sense. And the high is right at the last level of resistance on the daily that you can find. And if the market doesn't take out the top and hangs on these lows and ends red, it's hard to imagine Ford getting through a high like that. As I say all of this, I'm talking myself into going short in front of 1550 on Ford. But every time I trade this thing in the afternoon, it tends to not move. So now that I've said I want to trade it, I'm sure it's going to go nowhere.
Yeah. Ford's a great stock, but not for an intraday day trading stock. I know it's got a lot of interest. It pops up when the EV thing kicked off. But going all the way back to February, I'm sure we can find our video at some point, when we cracked this 19 into 18.5, that was the idea to go short. And this is off the daily. This is the only way, given the range, the daily range of Ford, it's going to be extremely difficult to find an intraday trade that you can get done from 8 o'clock to 4 or 9:30 until 4 o'clock. It's going to be very tight to get a trade done in that time period. Ford needs more time. The ranges are tiny. You're going to have to be very, very delicate if you decide to trade Ford intraday. But from the daily perspective, and that's all I can really kind of put color on, is right through here. 16 through 17, there's going to be something. That's all we got. That's still 70 cents away from where Ford is right now. And Ford's gone, in 3 days, gone from 13 to 15 and change. So quite a fast move for Ford's tends to be normal range here. So it's accelerating, but it's accelerating into some resistance here. So just keep an eye on it. That's all I can give you. I can break this chart down, but it's gonna be so difficult to read. And if you guys can read this chart much better on an intraday basis, then kudos to you. But I see this and all I see is noise. But if I look at the daily, it makes more sense. But at least from this perspective, intraday wise, it's gonna be very tricky to get the prices that you want where the risk makes sense. So I'm just gonna let this one go and we'll go back to Brendan.
Just trying to find that. Neil was just asking about this. Yeah, this Devon thing, guys, is Just threw it in the chat there, but it's an earnings leak. It was supposed to be aftermarket tonight. It would appear, yeah, it was supposed to be aftermarket tonight, but it is out early, which is about the third or fourth one that I've seen happen this way this earnings season, which is crazy. Anyways, if you're wondering, Devon's still halted. Earnings are out, just sifting through. What is in the actual report right now? But I mean, Devon's not a small stock, so we'll see what happens here if we can get this open again.
What I love about it, they get the earning leak. It's down on the day. Obviously, it looks like you had EPS beating, 259 versus 36, raising full year production and cash flow outlook. So it looks like it's relatively positive so far. It's like you have one job, man. Like how I'm trading a long time. Like where is this new thing where they can't manage to keep a lid on it until the close, right? Like we had a firm, we've had Devon. I forget who the third one is. Brendan's got a fantastic memory. I'm sure he can. By the way, we got a super chat there, Arun. Oh. Yaz is asking for you to analyze AT&T, so I'll leave that one to you. I did just get into. I think we're done the rundown, so I can now talk about Intel. So if I'm going to short something near the low, you might have heard me rant a little bit about Intel last week. By the way, I felt entitled to do that. I own shares of the company, so I don't mind doing a little bit of a rant about the earnings. But it was so strong today, and we added Nvidia to the long side. We added some AMD a little bit later on in the morning session when we came on for you guys, and it was all good. But Intel's move was just as impressive, breaking out from Friday afternoon's lull at 36 and just breaking out through the high. It's a pretty clean trade to the long side. I preferred Nvidia. Fine, maybe Intel could have been a better one. But as the market tries to reject things here, I just look back at this 37, and it's a pretty clean and obvious sort of trade for me. You had a pretty big wick bottom there previously. You then putting in some lower highs, just watching Devon there. You also had a bit of a pivot turn. This was right around where things stalled out, and that big candle was at 37. So leaning into this level is where I'd like to be short. If the market does retest the lows, give me something, that was relatively weak going into this, maybe overextended itself to the upside, and then we can work this one south. I'm probably not going to get more shares of Alibaba. We'll be able to see if that's going to be the case. But yeah, I like this one to the south side. Sure, we could get through like 37 and a quarter, and then I'll be out of it. I'm going to go back to Revlon for a second here because I was certainly not aggressive enough just trying to catch that long. There we go. On Revlon. And of course, I'm like, yeah, I'll buy the dip, and this is me canceling some orders. This is me trying to catch it off of VWAP. Not going to get it. I tried to pick some up when it took out 55.90. Sometimes I just get into it. I said I didn't want the breakout, so I didn't take it here. If it wants to pull back, I'll try to grab some at 6. I just don't see any way with the 60% short interest. When it dies for a while and starts going and the volume is this good, I'd like to see it continue here to be short. As I say all of that, I'm sure now it just wants to break 650 and continue to go without me because that's what always ends up happening here. I hate chasing moves like this. I feel like you compromise where your out's going to be. If you buy 650 and I didn't want to be wrong until 550, that really skews your risk to reward when ideally I wanted a 70 to 80 price, which I'm not going to be able to get right now on Revlon. Devon's still not open. There were a couple of other ones that have been pretty crazy. It's that LTRPB. What I can tell you about this one that's currently halted is even in our system here at Day Trade the World, I'm pretty sure this is still actually blocked for us, because that's how little liquidity there is. You don't want to be throwing around a lot of buying power. The stock is probably halted, I'm just going to guess by looking at it, 15 times. It's done 300,000 shares worth of volume. One thing I like to say a lot is if you can't scale a strategy, there's no point developing it. So when you look at some of these gappers and runners and up 300%, 300,000 shares worth of volume on 15 or whatever many halts it's done, there's not much you can do with that. Like in terms of risk to reward, you're never going to be able to trade a bunch of shares on it. 300,000 shares. When it opens up, I bet you can't even get 100 anywhere without crossing a ridiculous spread. I mean, HKD was more liquid than this thing is apparently. Yeah. And that's, like, I'm not making, the first thing everyone said was like, 300,000 shares for a stock with a 16 to 80 range, HKD was probably safer to trade on a per share basis, although this might have been cheaper to short. That's why there's no way I would touch this stock. I mean, that's just myself as a day trader. I mean, if you got it early and just took a clean 25 break and you're sitting in the money, it's obviously very different from what we would be doing with it, where I'm now trying to play it after it's popped up and halted a couple of times, and that's when I'm able to notice it. I just want to come back before I head to you, Arun. I'm sitting looking for some bids in BABA, and I want to get back into Meta. I got up to do the trade of the day there.
Boeing?
Well, I'm on the bit of Boeing too.
Oh,
I'm on the bit of Boeing. I want to get some more meta here. If we're going to actually hold highs, hold some of these lows and break back out in the afternoon, I look at Meta, which is still trying to hold its breakout price. When I got up to do the trade of the day, I threw a stop in that I should have put at 160, but I put it tight because I hate coming back and then finding myself deep out of the money when I'm not sitting at the desk. But I like this one in front of 160. It had a pretty good consolidation before breaking out through 61 early. If the market is going to try and rebound, Meta was one of the strongest second moves that you saw. A lot of stocks we'll show you this morning had huge moves, initial moves to the upside, started to decelerate after second push. Meta went 3 times, which is about as strong as anything I could find. So if it catches more legs off 160, I'll like it. But the pullback has been pretty steady.
All right, we'll take care of the AT&T request. I looked at the chart. I'm like, what do I do with this? Like, I'm not sure. One, intraday-wise, it's going to be tough to trade as it is. This is kind of the movement you get on intraday. Can't go there with it. Go to the daily, and then I look at the daily. I'm like, this is absolutely nuts. On how do you trade this on the daily? Nope. Gonna have to go to the weekly. So this is like a massive portfolio position you're gonna have to hold on to. And this is going back 3 years worth of info. 30, bottom of 17. I don't see any splits here. Usually E-signal shows me the splits. And we're just, for the last little bit, looks like 1650 is gonna be the bottom. 21 and a half is gonna be the top. 23 is gonna be the safety level. So range trade, that's all you can really do. At this point, I'll just entertain the idea of it, but range up here, range down here, nothing in the middle. That's all you can do with AT&T. Some of these names, they used to be more active with better intraday opportunities, but obviously over the years, AT&T has gone quiet. GE used to be a quiet one, and GE is still a quiet one. There you go. GE is another name. Obviously, the range is wider on GE, so it provides more opportunities than AT&T does, but just be aware that some of these names, you have to look at them from a much larger time frame just to make sense of the chart, because on the daily or even on the intraday, they're not very helpful. So you're gonna have to zoom out. And usually if you go that far out and it's past the time frame that you wanna work with, then just find another stock. Because AT&T, I can't remember the last time I traded AT&T.
Never?
I mean,
Just say never, man.
I don't know. I'm sure I traded at some point in my career, but it's been a while since I traded AT&T.
No, you did.
Same with Sprint. Sprint and AT&T. Is Sprint even around? It is Sprint. No, is Sprint isn't not?
Well, so
wait,
look,
what happened with Sprint?
Here's the thing.
I'm so out of touch.
There's quality dividend paying, inflation protected. Like AT&T, like some of these stocks have been pretty solid if you're looking for a dividend portion of your portfolio or whatever it might be. For trading vehicles, sometimes it's been there. I'm not saying never, but I'm not sure I've ever traded AT&T, maybe once or twice. And just from a momentum standpoint, they're not going to do what Checks Notes Revlon is doing right now. So anyways, I hate Revlon. And it's not that, actually, no, I don't hate Revlon. This is a great move. And I think a lot of people are probably pretty happy with what they're seeing right now in Revlon, except for myself, who I just finished telling you I didn't want to chase the move. And then had I chased the move, it just gave you 10% in the last, 5 minutes. So it's the time I shut up and said, don't chase the move. Everybody that chased the move just got paid. Congratulations to all of you guys. You guys are powering up. Just got to $7 here. I'll still, what'll happen is I'll buy the dip. You guys will trail out. And then that's how the rest of my day will go. I just finally got into Meta again. So picked up some 160, 65s. But it's Revlon that's just absolutely frustrating me that I'm not in it. I do want to go back to NVIDIA as well, though. NVIDIA, strong move off 182. This doesn't, I don't know, man. If the market rolls over again, I was long on NVIDIA all morning long. It does feel like this could turn into a short off 185. If we fail to break this out here, the only reason why I might not lean into it, and you're not going to see me necessarily long NVIDIA, and I'm short Intel in the same situation, this just feels pretty weak at this point, along with the overall market. So I'm not going to lean into that short. I think shorting things like in the tech space might be best reserved for Microsoft. That one is the only, I can't think of another major tech name. If you guys can find one, let me know. That actually, on the move back here, broke its morning low, like Microsoft did. So that showed a little bit extra weakness. I want to play off 278, which is a pretty good level before. If we're shorting bottoms, Microsoft feels like it makes some sense. What's everyone laughing at?
You should look at the chat.
I'm not looking at the chat, man.
No, you should look at our chat.
What?
Okay, anyways, we'll move on. Thank you guys for letting me know that T-Mobile bought up Sprint.
That's funny, eh, Fahad? Okay. I see you, Fahad.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, by the way,
it's very hard.
Fahad, for those of you tuning in for the first time, Fahad, the man who bowled 53 his first time, got doubled up by Lucas, our other production crewmate who's not in here today. Fahad just tripled up his score. He's only been bowling 4 times.
Allegedly.
I believe him. Why would Fahad lie? He bowled a 159. That's better than I could do. So we clown back and forth. For those of you tuning in, like I said, for the first time, Fahad is on the 1s and 2s, doing all these camera shots for you, making us look good, bad, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, they're clowning in my ear. I see everybody like laughing. Thank you guys for all the positive comments in the chat. Get the bald cam off, bro. Get the bald cam off. But seriously, in all seriousness, we're actually getting a bit of a bounce to the upside. And as that's happening, the way the market is going, forget this. I'm going to get an offer out here. If we're going to sit in this range, and I anticipate we could do this, I'm going to show you meta here, this 160 into 161.5. What I'd like to do is try to pay myself out on the first half of the range. That way, when we sit here and go sideways and don't sustain, if we sit there and go sideways and don't sustain the move, I can pay out and just keep getting back on the bid here. So I'll see if I can't get like north side 61s here, take a little bit out. What I love about this is the market it continues to try to bounce. Just had a rejection at 37 on Intel. So try to get some in front end. You just showed a bit of a rejection on the back end there. And the reason why I'm not going to short, that wasn't Micron, it was NVIDIA I was talking about. I'm not going to short it. I just prefer Intel. They had the weaker quarter last time. It's about the same kind of play. I'm using like the same VWAP and pivot there. So I'll just work more into Intel at this particular point. Devon's still not open.
Yeah, that's weird.
And which is, okay, fine. The earnings are now out. You might as well just open the stock. Like everybody can read the release that is already there, guys. So I don't understand why they just can't open the stock up so we can trade it. Hopefully to the long side. I'd like to see energy go up. For those of you watching Tesla here, still weak below that 900. Going to be hard for the market to get back up when Tesla's dragging us down, when Microsoft is continuing to show weakness. I was all long and bullish this morning, and one of the reasons why is we had such a decent follow-through or good follow-through at the end of the week after the Fed. It felt like this could be the time that we actually break out from those ranges. There's 278 that I should have taken instead of adding Intel. I'll see if I can't get something on Microsoft to the south side. Weakest tech name I can find, like I said.
All right, you're talking about energy. I love to take a look at crude because every time we look at energy, I immediately go to crude contracts. And man, crude had one crazy, crazy ride. We were looking for trades around here. When we started, we're like, okay, yeah, in front of 96, that'd be great. Missed it by 9 cents, didn't get the fill, cool. Immediately goes from 95.87 or 9 all the way down to 92.5. And that only took about 90, not even 90 minutes. In the first hour, we were already down there. So here it is going sideways. Keep an eye on crude, not for today, but for tomorrow. Crude's essentially done. 230 brings the electronic close. It's still trading, but for the most part, volume's done. Keep an eye on this area here that I've marked off here, 95 going all the way up back to that 97.50. There's going to be resistance. The market's showing you that there's going to be resistance here underneath that 95. There's going to be there's going to be actionable movement here once we get into that 95, but I'm going to be looking at from the short side here. So if we get up into the 95s, we start to fade off a little bit. We find a reason to go for the short. You might have to step in around 95, 95.50, put up 97.50. That's $2. At $2, at $10 per penny, you're looking at about $2,000. I mean, if you can stomach that's on the regular contract. So if you want to play the micro, that's about 1/10 of the value on the crude contracts. But about $2 in risk it's going to take per contract to take a shot on the short side in the event that we get into 95 and start fading off. So definitely with Devon Energy's report coming out, I mean, not that they're related, but the fact that there's energy reports or earnings report from energy companies coming out, you're going to get some action. And hopefully you get the action in the crude side of things as well. Because remember, there's geopolitical factors when it comes to these contracts, these commodity contracts. So keep in mind that crude now underneath support and looking for a potential move to the downside on a bounce. So as that moves down or that starts going sideways, we immediately go back over to the S&P futures. And what are we doing? Back in the range. We had 41.50 marked off. We had 40.90 marked off. We had a long. Where's the long? Right here. That long right there, 41.18. Got some out here. Accidentally got too much out, got some in here, got some in here, lost the trend, finally got the rest of it out. Net positive on the entire thing. We're good to go. We walked away from on the S&P side of things because it got really, really confusing because we're right back into the range. right? We talked about NASDAQ being at that 13K marker, which puts us a few hundred points from either side of either getting through a multi-month high volume area or respecting it and falling right back. So that's the area where, that's the kind of decision point that this market's at, especially from the tech side. So S&P had a nice little run in the last little bit, now taking a little break as well as we are sitting above 4,100. So this week could kind of set the tone in terms of, are we going to grind through or are we going to fall off? And I think we'll get a pretty good understanding as the week progresses. We got that geopolitical Pelosi thing going on midweek, from what I understand. And then we get into Friday, we've got the jobs report and inflation ideas and what the Fed might do. So as we move on, we're going to get more of a clear understanding of how this market wants to play. The issue here is if the market goes sideways, what do we do? Nothing is the answer, because the market has to do something from this point, because it is not sitting at a good location for us to be working in the middle. Don't diddle in the middle, as Brad would say. And this is going to be a wide area that you're going to have to be watching out for on either side.
So you don't like the middle?
Sometimes. But not in this moment, though.
That's the fair point. Like that's why I think when you're trading individual stock names, you're trading the futures, sometimes you don't want to mess around at a non-key level. But when you're in that position in the market, you can find an individual name which is giving you a better sense of direction. Kind of like Revlon. It doesn't even matter what price you buy it at this point, and I'm not saying anybody should just buy Revlon wherever it happens to be, but the stock is absolutely relentless. It's now, there's a term that, are we looking at Revlon chart? I don't know what's going on. But there's a term that I think Luca has coined. I like it. It's called quote levitation, and that basically means when you break a level, it goes from trading sort of in a decent range, 1 or 2 cent spread, 1 cent spread, and a nice decent charge to the upside. Suddenly, when you break a level, it just sort of finds itself 10 cents higher because a lot of big market orders are coming through, and they're just taking everything out. And on top of that, and probably more than market orders, you're just getting bids and offers, in this case, just pulled. Where everyone's getting out of the way when it does that first move to the upside, markets a few, people just start pulling offers behind, looking at that momentum. Right now, I mean, I keep thinking I want to buy a dip somewhere, and it feels like that's going to be wrong until it consolidates. So I'm going to have to stick to only one plan, and that's going to be waiting for a consolidation on a dip, or maybe just scalping the next even dollar break. It could be a $7.50 move. If it is, fair enough. At this point, the only thing that I want, other than Revlon somewhere to the long side, is going to be that Microsoft short. Again, just relatively weak. It's trying to push back up to the top end of this range. So now that it's above 277.50, I think I can at least try to start getting something here. I haven't been able to get anything at about 80s. Not really strong enough to push it higher. So I might start this a little bit closer to where we are now. Say that I should just cross the spread. Finally, now I should get into it. I'm like, whatever, I'll just actually sell below 277.50 so I can get a fill here. If I can get more closer to 278, fair enough. But in this consolidation, if the market makes a leg lower and we start reversing this entire move and hit the low of the day, well, Microsoft feels like it's the weakest of the big tech names and the best chance to give me a good risk to reward. If I'm short inside this range, I can go 1-to-1 down here, 276. 80 or so, and then work it all the way down to 276 even. Of course, I am sitting in an Intel short as well. I was able to get more of it. I got some 80s, 70s, maybe take some out in front of 50 before we hold for a bigger move to the downside. This will likely mean Meta doesn't work out, but that's the only thing I looked at and I wanted long that's anywhere close to entry, and in fact gave me an entry point. I do like Boeing here, and I almost said Alibaba. That's because I see BA. And I trade BABA every day, so I always think Alibaba in my head. So if I say Alibaba, I probably mean Boeing today, even though I'm likely to be in both of them. I still like 168. It's starting to come back down to this price. We talked about it for the trade of the day. We'd want to see it level off a bit, but it's been so relatively strong that unless we really start taking out lows, I think this could be one that we can lean back into to that long side. I see everyone talking about this QRTEB. I need a nickname for this stock. I'm not saying that every single time. It looks like it is about to,
Qbert.
No, Qbert?
Qbert. You remember Qbert?
I remember Qbert, but it's like QRTEB.
You rearranged the letters.
Okay, fine, Qbert. It's Qtreb, Qbert. I'll call it Qbert, that's fine. This one, a little bit more liquid than that other one that I can't whatever, I'm not even, the one that's like L and then a bunch of different letters, that stock. It's more liquid, so I say it's definitely tradable. It's spread 30, 40, maybe 50 cents at times. It's likely to give some kind of a test at 20 bucks here. I'm just showing my 15 so you get a perspective on it. If it rejects 20, the way I would look to play this if you're going long or you want a long would be if it pulls back, tries to go 10, 15%, sort of resists that halt down, and then can bounce off that level. You might be able to get a bit of a scalp trade to the long side. That's always been a decent trade. That's what I'd be looking for in this. But I got the big caps that I like here. I should probably put a bid out on Microsoft. I hate these wicks when they come in there. I'll clean that up in a second. But I will get a bid out on Microsoft just so we have something on the front end of this range there. If it starts to trade back into the downside, somehow Intel, Meta, and Microsoft are all in the money. But Meta is barely hanging on. That's the one long, of course. And we'll get back to that HKD in a second before we go to Brennan.
Now, there we go. Devon reopened, guys. Was halted, if you missed it, before earnings leak, so we are open again through 62.
I've got it right here.
I was literally just asking Arun if he still had that oil futures chart. So I want to have an idea.
It's at 94, 93,
That's the
70.
thing. Like, you're right on those lows. Like, I wanted to just go long in Devon Energy. But, I mean, if you broke out of the top on the futures, which are closed right now, so it's like, are you really going to get a breakout? That could play into our hand, though. If it's just going to sit in the range, you might be able to have it tomorrow. Anyways, Devon's 61.5 was the previous high before the numbers came out, mostly positive, and the bottom since the open is 61.5. So I feel like there's going to be a few people long in front of 61.5. You can count me as one. Maybe you got to throw the stop 10, 15 cents lower, because you put the stop at 61.50, you're probably not giving yourself too much of a chance. So let's see if we can't bounce off this 61.50. If we can do it a couple of times here, I'll probably try to get some shares in. Want to find some exposure to the long side, although, you know, in this particular case, a lot of times energy can go counter trend, so it's not really like, I'm just sort of setting myself up with some things that are relatively strong and others that are weak. Market could go down and the energy names can be strong, certainly. So I'll see if I can't pick up some Devon here. Where am I sitting? 69? That's not going to work. Let's try to get some in the 70s. Stop will be just below that 61.50.
Yeah, Neil's working his entries on Devon. I'm just going to go over what I have, the two longs. Remember, we had Amazon and NVIDIA this morning, absolute money makers this morning. I'll go over them. Why not? We'll take a look at Amazon. This was a great little long. We held on as long as we possibly could have. Wasn't going to get going north of that 140. This is what I was holding on for. We caught it. We caught the long after it failed that 134 break and the future stabilized. So that was a long. Target one exit in front of that 137. Trailed it. It went all the way to 138.80. I was like, oh man, this is going to look real good, especially on the Amazon multi-day here. You can see 140 break to the upside opens the door in a big way. So I was holding on for that, but we never got that opportunity. So trail stop gets hit south of 136.50. We're done. We walked away from Amazon. Great little winner there. And then NVIDIA as well. NVIDIA to the upside. Both Neil and I also had, both of us had this actually. I'm not sure how he managed it, but I know for me, it was that 182.50. Got some out in front of 187.5 for $5. Trailed the rest.
Oh, boo, Devon.
The way it was moving, it was very difficult to kind of just be like, oh, I'm going to put it underneath 185. So I actually ended up putting it underneath 184. It moved down, got me out. So the final piece, I made $1.50, but on the top end, I made $5. So here we are, kind of just walking away from NVIDIA. And then TBLT, that, you know, the fun runner, I guess, the gamble portion eventually trailed out as well, walking away. That was like 40 cents on average. Now I'm sitting on Square and Crowd. Square started this morning. I held on, no cash outs, came all the way back, got out for flat, actually lost like a few cents. And then I'm like, no, it's still good. I want it back. Stepped right back into it at 77. Here we are sitting in a 70 cent winner. And then the other one that I'm sitting on right now that's actually does not look like it wants to go anywhere is Crowd. As the futures market was coming down, I'm like, you know what? I don't mind playing the long side here on Crowd. 185 and change. It just kept going down to 183. Stop is south of 182, but we should be okay. If we can just get a rotation here to the upside, we should get some decent strength and we can play this from the long side here on Crowd. So holding on to a loser right now, $1.56 out on Crowd, but it seems to be firming up. Futures market also seems to be firming up, so that should be helpful in the event this market turns. These stocks that have been kind of trending to the downside, kind of being somewhat relatively weaker, they should get a turn as well. So we'll see actually if the market actually stabilizes a bit more. I might consider the idea of getting back into futures positions. Remember, we got out on the initial drop. We might be stabilizing just enough to pick up some new longs. Not ready just yet, but I'm definitely looking at the idea of potential new longs on the S&P futures.
Ooh, he said longs. That might mean it's a good time to pay yourself off a little bit. I took some out of Intel. Pay yourself out in the shorts if you think the market can come back up. I took some out of Intel when it got to those 80s. I won't add back unless it's off that 37 level. I want to make sure we're playing the range really well. Devon went 1 cent away from my stop. That got pretty fortunate. Whenever that happens to you, and when people record their trades and you're going back and you're like, okay, I want an area stop below 61.50. Don't put your stop right at 49. I told you it's likely to get run when that's the case. So I get a 75 price. If Devon now breaks out, and believe me, I now want to take some out in front of 62, given the wick that I just saw down there, lighten up the position if it starts to go in the money, and then try and rinse and repeat off the bottom, maybe get a better price in. When this happens, you've got to accept the fact that it's almost like a coin toss, right? Your stop area was pretty good, but your entry point wasn't ideal. So clearly entry is a little bit too high. I'll definitely take a little bit out if I can catch some 90s, try to ring the register there. I see someone at 88 when I'm sitting. Never sit at an even dollar number. I always hate when I do that. Anyways, I just got the fill at 90 anyways, but I just got that fill. If we can now come back into those 50s, I can get myself a better price. But as I do that and it heads back to the upside, Meta, which is the other long that I have, starting to break back above VWAP. I just paid some out at 1-to-1 when it took out 161. I'll rinse and repeat that one off the 160 mids. If those are starting to work, it means Intel's starting to go against me, which means we'll have to work back in the top of that range. And if we break either direction, stop out the shorts that lose inside of the range you have, hold on to a portion of your longs. That's the plan of action for sure. But Microsoft never even gave me those fills. Unless you're that dark pool crazy wick that nobody's actually getting that fill, really all we're doing is testing back up to 278. Looks like we're going to possibly break that price right now. I'll give it a shot, but 13,000 is incoming here on the NASDAQ. You get back above that, and things start to get pretty bullish again. We've got Devon to the long side, which might not care. I never got Boeing. Meta will have to work. But Intel and Microsoft, between those two, it's Intel showing a little bit extra weakness relative to Microsoft here, threatening to stop me out here just above 278. And if you're checking back in, yes, Revlon is still at the high of the day. I'll probably never getting into this stock at this point. That's just not going to happen. Nobody wants Neil to be long. I'd like 7 if we could have had a deeper consolidation. I was pretty close to pulling the trigger. I just hate buying tops on these things.
Yeah, I say long. Hey, let's go futures. Maybe long. Give me a few minutes. Nope. It takes off south of 20 into 27. I'm like, really though? Like we just talked about it and it was at 20. And now it's at 27. Regardless, as long as it stabilizes north of 20, I would like to take the long, but I'm also not going to pay 20. I'm not paying high 20s for this. So what I'm going to do is actually, in the event that we stay up here, I'm going to wait for a dip back into the low 20s, so 22, 21, somewhere in there. If we can dip back in there, I'll pay the price at that point. The risk makes sense because keep in mind, sometimes you get these trades and you're like, you know what? I want to do this. And then you look at the risk on the trade. You're like, okay, it makes sense to pay here, but once you go higher up, given that you're stuck in a range, the risk doesn't make any sense anymore. Why would you pay 30 knowing that there's resistance into the 40, into the 45s, into the mid 45s? So you have about 10 to 15 points in space and your risk profile is 30 points. That makes no sense. But the lower you get it, if I go into the 20s, it's going to cost me about 30 points or so, 20 points to the upside. Not the greatest, but at the same time, I can finesse that trade a little bit better than if I were to pay into the 30s. So for me, even if this stabilizes, we're going to need those low 20s, high teens to make sense of the risk on this trade because of the fact it is stuck in a range. That's just simply how it's got to be. Sometimes you got to be willing to pass up trades because the risk doesn't make any sense on it. You don't have to take everything that you see. The risk has to make sense for the trade to be taken. If the risk doesn't make sense, don't take the trade. Simple as that. It's just a mathematical game. Trading at the end of the day is mathematical. And if the math doesn't line up for a trade, whether it's from the risk perspective or even from the technical perspective, you got to back off, be willing to pass up that opportunity because there'll be another one that makes more sense that you'll be able to take later on. Save your bullets for when you really need them, not just because you see something and just start taking shots for it.
That is 100% true. I love that look, man. That's what trading is all about. It's not just about having a good idea. You have to make the trade execution actually work, which is why I can sit there staring at Revlon and never actually get into the long, because I couldn't find a long entry that I particularly like. That said, I like Microsoft, and that just stopped out for a losing trade. I like Meta to the long side, and we'll see if that actually continues as strong as it looks like it could be. But Bed Bath & Beyond, thank you guys so much in the chat for reminding us just how strong this stock has been all day. It just recently, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes ago, put in a bit of a dip and looks like it's trying to break back out again. That's a 550-ish breakout into, only went out 10 pennies before pulling right back in. You consolidate above 550, suddenly you've got yourself 10 cents worth of range after breaking out and then taking the next, potentially taking the next level out with then room to run, right? If it gets through 565, your next top's about 2 to 1 to $6, 3 to 1 if you play it exactly right. With the short interest, I think that's going to be an excellent risk to reward. I want to see it bounce off 550 again, obviously, consolidate up here and then take out that high. That works for me if we can get it. Devon, we rang the register a couple of times on that long, able to take some out there, 62 and a quarter. After a 62 out. Now I'm just looking for it to take out 62.50 and try to go green on the day, which would be just in front of 63. If this can go green, then we've got a nice one. Remember, the earnings came out early, but it was an overall beat. Looks like we have some more coming from the desk here, so let's go to Stephanie.
Hey guys, it's Steph here. So today I just want to run through ES futures and go through some market moves. If we can throw it to my chart here today. So here we are. So before market opened, I would say we were definitely trending bearish. As you can see, 4,100 was a key level before we decided to make a pretty aggressive bounce, came back down, VWAP rejection, made a higher high in terms of comparing it to Friday's high, which was at 41.44. We double topped, came all the way back down, and now we're kind of in the middle of the muck here. So where are we going to go? Are we going to stick in the overhead supply zone, head back to resistance, head back down to testing the 41 level? Yeah, so that's all from me. Heading back to you guys.
Thank you very much. A little bit of analysis. It's so true that everything did set out looking like we were in that trend early on, and now you're reversing it. What I'm actually concerned about right now when I look at it is it's this 13,000 level as well when I pull up this NASDAQ. And this is why I still like some short ideas. Don't get me wrong, the market just tried to bounce there. But you had a Friday, we had that wick top through 13,000, and reclaiming that's going to be key. Like, you still do have a potential like upward trend. You're still making a higher low on the higher level. But again, if we start rejecting that 13,000, that's what it's all about. You get a treat there. A lot of analysis coming from the futures here, not just with Arun. Devin, like you said, we took that second out. I just want to point out, Revlon is still going to the high of the day, and it is still doing so without me. Sometimes you just, it's weird. Like, I sit there and say I don't like chasing things, but if I make that mistake, and I call it a mistake because I don't like it, the market's going to reward you for doing things that go against your plan all the time. And the worst thing you can do, like if I just went long, closing my eyes and going long every single chance on Revlon, this stock would have paid you off 5, 6, 7 straight times, no problem. That said, the next time I see something that I don't want to chase, I'll chase it and get burned. So the market is more than willing to pay you out for breaking your own rules. The only question is, if you do it 10 times out of 10, is it the right thing to have done? So I say I don't like chasing them because my history on chasing moves this late has never been that good. I like to buy consolidations where I can find a more defined risk trade. Would have worked out if I had just been a little bit less discretionary, let's put it that way, on Revlon as I get the level of regret here. I also missed my reload. So 13,000 just reversed. It just rejected in the NASDAQ, and I didn't get Intel more short in front of 37, which I probably should have gotten. I'll get back on the offer. If we're going to roll back into shorts, this was better performing than Microsoft when the market bounced. So I will get back into some Intel. NVIDIA probably a little bit of the same thing as well there, Arun.
Yeah, that's the thing with futures, right? There's always many different approaches to it, and I think there's a trade here to be made, or a case to be made for a trade in the morning, which I did not catch. So having different perspectives around the 4,100 mark helps out big time. And that's the thing. We're looking at a range of 40.90, 41.50 up top, so big 60-point wide range, looking for trades closer to either end for either the long or the short. So that's the way I would approach it. And right now, the way the market's reacting to, it's like dead center. It's dead center. 41.25 would be the middle. 41.50, well, somewhat of the middle. So if it, again, I'm willing to bid low, and I am bidding, by the way, a low 20s. Not here. I'm not bidding at 23. I want it as close to 20 as possible. I'm going to bid lower, see if I can't grab a long. I think there's enough, but again, it's one of those trades. You're playing in the middle, so know what your expectations are for this trade, because once you get north of 35, you're right into resistance already. So just be smart about how you're playing in the middle and control your risk. In these type of situations, it's easy to get carried away with trades, and that's what I'm doing with Square too. I know Square's up. It's up 76 cents, and it's bouncing, but at the same time, the market's got no extension. So by that mentality, or by that mindset, does Square have an extension? If the market does not, it's going to be tough. So I'm still protecting Square. I'm up on it, but I'm trying to protect as much as I possibly can on Square in the event that this market goes right back to the bottom of the range and then Square ends up dropping right back into the 77. So I don't want to stay in this too long and let this thing just kind of flutter around when I can capture small gains here and there, because that's the environment you're dealing with right now with Square. Is going sideways. Market is trying to come back into the 20s, but not really catching much on either side. We had that quick run to the upside, not enough to come down or to continue to the upside. So we're still waiting on that. And then Crowd also still hasn't really done a whole lot, but there we are at $1.55 on Crowd. But hey man, Amazon was delivering all day this morning. It's been delivering since I was on the show on Friday too. It's been well. Amazon's been a great stock. Does it show my chart? No, it doesn't show my entries. But Amazon's been pretty good in terms of cash, making money off these reads here. But the big level you got to watch out for on Amazon is going to be 140. That's the big one, multi-day breakout, potential top. Right now is just kind of fluttering to the downside. We'll just wait a little bit here for sure on Amazon, but has been well. That's one of those trades where the range is wide enough where you can actually make money on both sides, versus something like Square has tightened up the range. And damn, futures, really, did you really go that close? Oh, 21.5 on the low. No, I was sitting lower than that. I was off by a couple ticks there. And we bounced off, looks like 21.5, and now we're sitting at 24.5. But I still want the long. Again, I'm not willing to come up. This is sometimes the situation you end up dealing with. You can't come up because the risk doesn't make sense, and the market doesn't want to come down low enough because it just doesn't want to. And you're at that point where I'm not willing to pay up anymore. It doesn't make sense, so I'm not coming up. So it's just one of those things where if it takes off without me, it takes off without me. That's all I can do.
Sometimes the best trade you make is one that you don't make, right? Like if you, like we just talked about chasing trades, right? Like it's just not, if you have a trade plan and it's a plan that you've worked on and successfully to you, then it's got a positive expectancy. All that's out the window if you deviate from that plan, right? That being said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. On Friday, and what's weird about this, so I got to call myself out, because on Friday we did a trade of the day on Amazon where I was essentially taking the same short off the open in front of 135 to fill in the gap to the downside that I did today off of 134. But what made it valuable or doing this for the trade of the day on Friday, as why wouldn't I show you the 3 minute instead, because these crazy wicks, is we had that dip down and then a harsh rejection and then a break back to the upside. I can't make it look any better. That's annoying. But I reversed to the long on Friday. Today did the exact same move. So someone in the chat was like, if you break a rule, like, how do you punish yourself? I'm that guy that would sit there and when I make a good trade, say nothing. If I make a bad one, call myself the dumbest trader on the planet. Oh, you suck, Neil. Like little things like that, I'll say. But just to myself, it kind of reinforces that I made a mistake. I made a pretty large mistake not reversing into the long on Amazon, the same way we did on Friday, or I did on Friday, initially short, stopped myself out, accept that it's going to be strong, but I got to reverse. I got to find a way into the long off 135 there and pay some of it back right into the same levels. Revlon is, because obviously Revlon's halted to the upside. Like, how many times have you heard don't chase today? And then there isn't a price that you could have bought Revlon that isn't paying you right now. It's halted at $8.60. This is just going to become amusing. It's entertainment at this point. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go pay for some shorts if I haven't done so already. Because if I see $10, I'm probably going to want to short that today. So much for the long idea. I'm not getting a consolidation. It doesn't want to do it. The stock absolutely hates me today. But congratulations to all of you that are long. because I'm sure there's a few in the chat here that are alongside. I'm going to go back over to Meta. I didn't get the reload, but I am looking for it to break this consolidation 161.50. Once if it can do that, we get through 13,000. I'm looking back to about 163. I'm not sure we get anything more than that out of this long. Devon Energy continues to cruise here. Checks it. Yeah, 62.5. Just better than 62.5 to the upside. I want this to get to that 63. If it threatens to go green and the market's not going, I can always get out if it fails at 63 even. But the dip buy pretty solid. Just when things reopen, if you're going to get in, you know after a halt, there is likely to be one of these crazy big wicks. So, obviously I had my stop a little bit below that previous high. I actually gave it like 20 cents, which is fortunate. If I give it 15 or 10, then I'm stopped out. But the other way to play this is you don't have to sit out this move. You can wait for it to consolidate, maybe just take a break when it goes through 62, not have as good of a price, and then just try to pay yourself out right away. Like let it consolidate after the halt, really just pay once it breaks out the top of the range, get in, get out. Maybe you'll have less of a move, but there's less stress to that trade as well because you're not in there in that flush on the reopen. I like halt reopen trades, whether it's to the upside or the downside. They are something that I do quite frequently, only because I have to do this. I don't understand how it's possible that HKD, which failed at 500 on Friday or below 500, could have bottomed out at 260, and we are back testing 480 on HKD. Why do I care? Because I'm still short AMTD, which has a large stake. HKD is AMTD Limited or Digital or whatever the heck they call it. So they do have a large stake. It was a spinoff. But every single time this goes up, I check and make sure AMTD isn't, and as long as it doesn't follow it, the short is safe. But unless this capitulates, breaks 400, gets down into the 300s, I'm not really going to get paid out on the last of my AMTD short. But every single day that HKD sets up and continues to hold the highs, I'm just going to keep shorting this stock. Because as far as we did it on Friday. If you get a huge flush, then AMTD is going back to $1. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. And if when HKD goes higher, this doesn't go with it, then you're sitting in a lower risk short. It'll never pay you off as much. But you know what? The winning percentage feels like it's a heck of a lot higher. It's a single event, so I can't really test that. But I'd like to say it's telling you that that's true. Brendan?
Just saw some of the semiconductors moving around, guys. ON, if you remember, was an earnings name we were talking about in the pre-market this morning. Tried to get up to 64 and failed. So some sell volume back in ON once again.
Yeah, going back to Rev, this ties into what somebody was asking. Where can I find these halts? So quickly, I'm just going to give you guys this page. This is the NASDAQ Trader halt page. Just Google or Bing. We had a whole thing with Bing last time.
Nobody does that.
You can Bing it.
No, you can't.
Anyways, you can Bing it or Google it. NASDAQ Trader halt page. It'll take you to this page right here. And it shows you all the halts and for what reason and what time they're expected to come back on. Now, typically you get LUDP, which is the limit up volatility halt, right? But now, I think you would know more about this. It says volatility halt, but it's giving you a code of M, and M is corporate action.
Hold on a second.
So I don't know what that really means, because they say volatility, but then you go into the halt code, the actual halt code itself, and its M sits under M1, corporate action. So I don't know what this is, but this might be a little bit longer than what you might be used to on Rev, because Rev's been here before, right? Somewhere here. No, it hasn't.
Well, you'll know if it opens in 5 seconds. My guess is that they use that code if it triggers a volatility halt because of the corporate action, like they were able to get that bankruptcy loan, then that's why it gets the M code. I'm just guessing.
But that should have happened earlier, though, not now.
Yeah, it should have happened earlier, but it should be open. Again, it's 5 minutes. It should have just opened now. So maybe you're right.
I don't know. This is the weird code. This is typically not the code you get for a move like this. You're going to look for the LUDP, which is the volatility halt. Oh, there. I guess it is volatility. They tricked us.
It just opened.
Okay, so it is open now. It opened at 860, I guess. Or no, it opened lower than that. 820 something. I don't even know where it opened. Anyways, it's at 860 now, and looks like it wants to continue running up. So I guess this is not over just yet, guys. We talked about it last when it was at 6. I was like, it's for the momentum guys. I'm not much of a momentum guy. If I was, however, $2.50, easy money, right? That's how it is sometimes, but it's a lot more trickier when you actually are in the middle of a trade or trying to set up a trade for something like this. But for now, it does look like our REV, one crazy run from south of 5, now sitting at 850. You know how these ones have been multi-day, when they get hot, they can become hot for a few days? keep an eye on it. See how it closes today, and then see what it does overnight and come back to it tomorrow.
There we go. I'm not going to look any gift horses in the mouth, although that's exactly what that is doing. But I just trailed out of Devon. We talked about the plan for the last of the shares was it would try to go green. That's 62.85 up at those highs from earlier in the pre-market. If we rejected that price, I would just get out of it. So just trailed out at 62.50. Overall, not a bad trade. Hey, I mean, positive earnings. Got leaked early. It basically opened up exactly where it halted, retested the previous high, bounced off that, and then sort of carried through right to that point where it'd be break even on the day. We're able to take some out there. It's going to be hard not to think about shorts as long as 13,000 doesn't get broken on the NASDAQ. So I'm going to hold on to Intel, maybe not reload it. I've got the last out on Meta still there. So the reopen on Rev, however, because I'd like to trade this at some point today, was able to get right to $8.99. You can probably guess what is happening next. It then did try to break the halt price, did so at $8.60. But if it now, as it tries to put in a bit of a red candle here on my 3-minute, if it tries to bounce down, cannot get through $8.60, suddenly you'd have like a $9 break, $8.60, $8.50 stop set up there on the way to 10, which I did pay for shorts, and I will have a look at if it fails a 10 break. For now, I told you how this was going to go, that I would miss every single dip buy and eventually get in, and that's where the term would be. So well, if it breaks 9 even, you will see me try to get like 01s to 05s and then try to slip out in front of 950 and maybe 960, 970, probably some at 924 as well. As we go to you, Brennan.
A little one back to day highs here, guys. Outset Medical was up in the pre-market on this note. They cleared a dialysis system test for them. So back to day highs through 2025 there, I guess volume went off 31% for OM today.
Man, these semiconductors have been nuts. And
oh, that's a different one. Oh, you're thinking ON.
yeah,
that's
what did you say?
Outset Medical.
Oh, yeah.
OM.
We've heard ON so many times today.
I know, and I didn't trade it at any point today. By the way, of course, as I sit there and finally put an order on Revlon to get a $9 break, it then decides, yeah, we're not going to break $9, or maybe we will. I'm still sitting here waiting for it. It just pulled back to about $8.50 and is now making a run at 9 even. So watch out. If you've got longs and you haven't taken profit by now, I mean, I always say no one ever went broke taking profit. If you had a 6 long, a 5 long, a 7 long, by now I'd assume you'd taken some. If it gets to 10, I think you want to make sure you're paying yourself somewhere. Despite the fact that I still like going long on a break, that's a scalp trade as a day trader. Everyone has different sets of rules and different risk to reward that they might find. We're now making that run at 13,000 as I check the NASDAQ. We get above that, likely to stop out Intel and try to hold Meta, but Revlon's on my mind.
Man, all I can do, and I had to do this earlier to the crude contract too. I had to just look at it and shake my fist. Same situation with the futures. I actually looked up exactly where it ticked out. I was 1 tick away from a fill down here in front of 20, and here we are now sitting at 30. So, and we're running out of time too. I mean, we're 45 minutes in. If we stay too long, I'll give it another 5 minutes or so. If I don't get a fill in 5 minutes, I'm going to cancel this order. There's no point. Remember, here at Day Trader World, at our office here in Toronto, we have to be, as a day trading firm, we have to be flat by the end of the day. 4 o'clock, a little bit of flexibility depending on end of day stuff, but 4 o'clock for the most part, equity positions all need to be flattened out. So a lot of the times you'll see us carry positions right into 4. Some of us will, depending on what the imbalances that come out of 350 as well, if there's still large imbalances that can help your position, sometimes you might just take the trade right into the 4 o'clock print and just kind of dump the shares into there. But for the most part, we are flat by the end of the day. And as I say that, Rev, I'm looking at Rev going, oh, we're above $9 now.
I was going to say, the problem is, and I did get it. I got 03s on Revlon. You'll see if you come to my level 2 here, Fahad, for a quick second, like it's kind of fast and it's hard to see. But on the first quarter of the break, up to 925, it got to 23s. But you've seen this, right? Like everybody's thinking 9/4 that took that break because they just keep dumping shares. You'll see 15, then I'll see 17, and they just keep throwing like 1,500 lots at it, 2,500. There's 5,000 lots at like at 24, 25. Everyone was thinking exactly the same thing. So I took out half at quarters instead of trying to hold more for 950. If it gets through the quarter now, I want to get one more leg out at 950, and if I think 10 could be a potential short, I'm going to try to get flat on this move somewhere close to like $10 as we continue to ring the register. So obviously it could have gone a little bit better than this, But hey, I'd rather be a good free throw whatever. I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you it wasn't a better long earlier. But I couldn't find anything I liked till it gave the 9 break, mostly because of that halt price, right? I love when you hold the halt, and that gives you a floor that a lot of people are going to be buying in front of. Then you get a clean level break. But right now, 948 is as high as it got, so I was able to get my last shares out in front of 950 on the road to $10, where I may or may not get railroaded, depending on how the move goes here up to 10 even. If you're wondering, why don't you just hold for the moon? Well, it's 320, and no matter what I do, I'd have to be flat before 4 o'clock anyways. I'd have to get this trade out before 4 o'clock. So taking your profit as a day trader and running in this situation on a prop desk is usually what we do. Just got to 977. I'm sitting at, where am I? Don't tell me I put 988 again. I forget what stock. It was that, was that VRAX stock this morning? Right, on a 10 break, I had like 1088 as my last out, because that's like my best 100-meter time, and I just did the same thing. I just put like 988, like randomly, because I like that. It's weird. Traders do that. Like when I buy in front of a quarter, I usually buy at 31. Someone just offered a ton at 970. I'm getting out. Gimme. Oh, this is what happens when you're too slow. That's what happens when you're too slow. Someone just jammed the offer at 970. Took it all the way down to 950. I tried to punch out there at like 55s or so. Didn't get it, so I'll kind of let this settle down a bit, and then now get out at 950. The problem with that is, like when the 970 came on the offer and scared it to the downside, if you kind of panic punch lower, like you'll end up getting like 25s or 30s there. If you let that little panic of seeing that large order at 70 subside, then it recovers halfway, and then I'm getting out at 950. Now, ultimately, I was going to sell all of it in front of 10 anyway, so it ends up working out. Maybe gave up an extra 20 cents. But I would rather get paid out on a breakout where I'm taking the high of the day and not have to worry about the downside than try to hold on for the perfect winner. It's just a style of trade thing, and there's still a bit of a seller here in the 70s. I want to see what happens at this 10. Oh, Revlon. This is going to be a fun one going into the close, Brendo.
It's going to be a fun one next couple of days, I think. A ton of room above that for Revlon. Oracle, if you missed it during lunch hour, there was some reports of job cuts coming, some cutting back in general on the cost side of things as well. You can see a huge volume came in when that came out around 12:30. It just rejected 77.50 pretty hard once again, some sell volume again. Back to the downside for Oracle.
I mean, Oracle's down. Oracle used to be a much larger weight in the NASDAQ. Now it's kind of fallen off quite a bit here. I mean, the landscape of what the NASDAQ weighting looks like has changed dramatically. I mean, now you've got, from last check, I've got Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, Google, expected. Meta's up there. Now we've got Pepsi and Costco and Broadcom up there. And you know what used to be a big dog, Netflix, it's fallen down to like 60th or 70th on the wait list here in terms of the NASDAQ weighting. So a lot of shifts at the top end of the weighting here in the NASDAQ 100. Regardless of all of that, you've got to understand that the top 3 names are about 1/3 out of 100 companies. So Apple, Microsoft, Amazon are roughly about 30% of the NASDAQ 100. So the remaining 97%, or the 97 companies, are going to be the rest of this, the 70% of the weighting. So as the market comes back in, like I said earlier, it didn't get me filled within the 5 minutes that I wanted, so I canceled the order. I'm done. Market's coming off. I don't want to hold on to this as the market's taking a nice little move to the downside. No need to take risk at this point. All I got to do is take care of the 2 positions that I've got. Square, we've already got the trail stop in. Crowd, for a slight moment there, I thought we had a chance to actually get back towards that 185. Not looking like it wants to do anything. Market's coming off. Crowd continuing its downward move. We're going to wait on this one a little bit. There should be some more support around 182.5. But if I don't get that, we're going to have to walk away from Crowd as well. So at the end of the day, after having a great day, what do? We just kind of gear down a little bit, protect as much as we've kind of made here, and then let the rest of it go. Of course, entertainment, it's getting late, and I kind of want to keep my eye on things. Why not? Entertainment value is going to be from Rev at 950. Yep. Is Rev going to break 10? You guys let us know. What do you think? Is Rev going to take out 10 before we get to the close today? I'm going to say yes, just because it'll be fun to watch. But I mean, I have no vested interest in it. If it goes up, it goes up. If it doesn't, oh well, I was wrong. But do I care? No. But it's just one of those things where entertainment value is going to be.
You can pay for shorts.
Huh? Oh, yeah, no. I could pay for shorts, he says.
Arun doesn't pay for shorts.
No, he does not.
Ever.
He does not
It
pay
could
for
be-
shorts at all.
It could be like less than 1 cent a share to short the stock, which
Still not doing
it
it.
probably is. It's probably like 1/3 of a cent for locates for us, but he still won't pay for it. What's really weird is we just rejected 13,000. I'm like, okay, fine. I got trailed out of Meta because I didn't want to hold on to that when it broke support and the market came back. But why am I not in BABA anymore? Because BABA decided to trail me out of the short I've been in all day long at the moment that the market pulled back and went red again on the NASDAQ. So sometimes it doesn't have to make sense, but that's where my trail was. I'll be out of Alibaba. I'm not going to complain too much. It was like a 90-20 short, so you still make a buck on the trade, but that's just a little weird, I think. Whatever. So I'm still hanging on to Intel here. It's still in the range. It has not given me my second fill, 36.80 after the reload at 37. I just think if we roll lower, start to break fresh lows, Intel risk to reward off that 37 made a heck of a lot of sense. Should have tried to get back into Microsoft. That's the real problem. These dark pool wicks on Microsoft. Imagine you could actually go long at 253. That'd be fantastic. But Microsoft's still right at that 278. So hasn't really come back far enough. Remember we said, Devon, watch out for it reversing at that 63 area. So that's it trailing back in with the market now pressing lower. If it doesn't want to sustain the move, I don't have to get back into it. We're one and done since the halt. That is fine by me. I'll take the money and run. Revlon, I wanted to see it trade up there at 10. Probably a mistake. I should have just gone short right when it got to 990 the first time, because the problem with trying to take it the second time here, it just gave you 990 all the way back into, the bottom is 920, but reasonably probably like 935, 940, right? So you just got 3 or 4 to 1 to go short this thing off 10 even, 3 to 1 because of slippage, 4 to 1 if you get it perfect. Now it's going to retest that high, and if you get it again, much greater chance it puts in a higher low, and taking it the second time, the third time you test a level like 10, the way this is pushing to the upside, the way the tape is strong, the way the volume is still going higher, all you're doing is running in front of the freight train. A lot of times you want that short off that obvious level the first time. You want it when everyone's taking profit, kind of like I was, but a little bit later, and then you can take that initial short. 85s would have done it. The second time through, it's probably just a breakout.
As a tip, don't run away from a freight train because you're not going to outrun it. Maybe Neil can because he's like a track superstar, but I know Fahad can't. So let's just make sure that you don't run away from a freight train.
Yo, by the way, Fahad, Arun just talked trash to you, bro. So Fahad's busy on the ones and twos. He didn't even hear. He basically called you slow. And also, for a little bit of added context for those that watch the show, we have fun with our crew because you hang out all day long. And they're great guys. Like I said, Fahad's the only one here today. Lucas can't be in. Hopefully he'll be back soon. But Fahad challenged Lucas, his mate, to bowling and lost. Fahad challenged me to a race. That'll never happen. He also said he could lock me down if we played flag football. He tried to cover me, which is ridiculous. And then on top of this, for those, most of you know if you watched last week, Fahad challenged Arun to boxing. Now, Arun has trained in more than one combat sport. I mean, does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
Look at the dude. So Fahad he's a great dude, but let's just say he talks a lot of smack. And we got these earpieces where we're supposed to throw to Brendan and when the segments are coming up. And so he'll talk trash in my ear while I'm trading the whole time. And Steve G, hammy pull if you run for the train. Did I tell you that story? So I have a whole thing where I'm not going to run for a train. Right, it doesn't matter. It's not. I'm never needing to be on time that much. Although I'm pretty good about being on time, and it comes from I commute in and I take a train into work. And when I was a trainee, starting out, it was in the middle of winter, and I was kind of late getting there. The weather was bad, so I pull up to the station, and the train's already there. So I sprint down the tunnel, up the tunnel, and I come up the stairs.
Well, the hammy.
Right as the doors are about to close, I get to the top of the stairs, a little bit slick, pull a hamstring, slide, bail, fall right on the ground. Oof. As the doors are closing and the train's pulling out, and everybody on the train is just like, who is this dude that just bailed and is on the ground with a pulled hamstring? It's a true story. And ever since that moment, and of course I had to sit there with a pulled hamstring, wait for the next train, and God knows how long it is, and then sit there at work all day long with a pulled hamstring. So yeah, I never run for a trade anymore. I will be that guy. I'm just casually walking. That's fine. I will get the next one, man, because it's just not worth it. And Fahad, man, you got to stop.
Fahad's like, personally, that
Stop,
would never
Fahad.
happen to him. You know
Whatever,
what Fahad's good at? Fahad's good at talking trash. And you know what happens when you talk trash? We can all take it. Let's put my charts up. What happens when you talk trash? Siga found out when it talked trash about what it's got, and FDA came out and had to slap it back into place. It went from 20 all the way down to 14.
So much trash.
So Fahad's trash talking is like Siga the stock right now. And you know what? Sometimes the FDA is going to have to come in and put it in its place. And Fahad, he keeps talking, it'll never happen to him. He spent right now, he lost to Lucas in bowling, and this man has been bowling almost every weekend since, because he's got something to prove to Lucas now. So apparently they're going to have another social in December, I believe. And Fahad is practicing, and Lucas doesn't even care, because, you know, it's just a game. But Fahad, he's talking so much trash, and now he's trying to back it up. I mean, if you want to play that flat, if you want to, he signed up for boxing. That's never happening, by the way.
No, by the way, just so you know, like this whole boxing thing, I said this on Friday. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Like we ultimately, like we're a business. Like we all work together here. And when something happens to you, it's a huge liability. Like you're a great guy. I don't want to see you get killed in a ring, man. Like I love you too much. It's not.
But we can do
cool.
like we can do football, like that football challenge that he has with you. We can do that.
Oh, that we can do. Like
Yeah.
we can do the flag football, the bowling.
Yeah.
We were thinking about paintball at one point. Just
That'd be
fun
fun.
office stuff. We used to have a dodgeball team back in the day.
Ooh,
That was
that'd be so much fun.
We were legit, dude.
Oh, I
Anyways,
would love playing that. That I'll play with you, Fahad.
Yo, you two one-on-one in dodgeball would be an absolute massacre. Like, you know when Adam Sandler in whatever the movie, I forget the name of the movie, where he's just going at the kids?
Oh, yeah.
That'd be you versus Fahad.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
Apparently we're supposed to go to Brendan, I've been told. Yeah. Oh.
A little one that popped up, well, it's not terribly little, but another one that popped up around midday today. MMSI just starting to hold 61 here on decent volume. There was a note from Mutual of America Capital revealing a stake in this thing early on today, but a huge pop during lunch hour on this, getting pretty tight here, guys.
Another name that Brendan
gotta be
brought for
kidding
us
me.
earlier was Devon Energy. It took off from 61.80 all the way to 62.80. And Neil points out to me, it came back to 61.80, and Neil points out to me, hey, let's see what HKD is doing. HKD north of $500? Really? It just took off here just now from 470 all the way to 532. I mean, at some point with a $40 spread, what's the real volume we've traded? Because this volume is not right. But I don't know how much volume we've done.
That is absurd. That can't be right.
But this is where we're at, guys. We've done I say absolutely nothing, but the range here is like a huge range. So the chart looks, even when it's quiet, it's not quiet. This move right here, that's still $30. So here we are north of 500, still moving up. Someone's actually willing to hit the offer on this? Really? Man, okay. Here we are at 538.39. Oh, it's on the bid too. Okay. I guess that's the game we're playing. Everyone's moved out of Rev and into HKD.
This
that's
is
what's
crazy.
happening.
Come on. I'm always so curious. Just halted to the upside at 538. And if you we've talked about this. I've said since Friday why I'm not trading it, and I don't think I will, because it just took out the high of the day, right? Okay, an AMTD, which is supposed to hold a big stake in them. You might see me just sitting in a short in this stock every single day when I sit down in the morning. I'm probably just going to short it if I get anywhere close to $2, because this is all that this is all that's happening in AMTD. It's sitting in the money, looking like it's about to roll over. I've been getting some out on the way in. I haven't even taken it out in the afternoon show because I'm waiting for a capitulation. It just got to VWAP. Fresh highs on HKD going gangbusters, and you can still be in the same short from 9:30 and still in the money. When HKD goes down, where do we think this stock is going? Started at what, $80, I guess it was, should go back to $8. So every day until it stops working and gets through 2, I'm just going to be short this. It doesn't make any sense. But you do have to watch HKD, because I promise you, at some point, if this thing Volkswagens, which would be more than this, then look, at that point AMTD is likely to break 2 and then stop me at that kind of a thing, which I wouldn't think is possible, but anything can happen. We understand that in these markets. I just have Intel, which is 2 cents from my next bid. Revlon continues to reject. whatever, man. I should have had that 10 short, paid for the shorts. Didn't take it at 10. We played it to 10. There was somebody selling at 70s that felt pretty aggressive. That was reason enough to get out. It probably should have been reason enough to go short. However, it looks like it's trying to hold, resisting halting down here off of $8. So it's still a chance this goes crazy, bouncing off of 8 even. I would have liked 750 a bit more. But remember tomorrow, when you get day 2 on this, remember, a new catalyst here today, been doing absolutely nothing. When you get day 2, a lot of times after it's already gone nuts once. Like the big move was when it went dollar after the bankruptcy, it went from $1 up to $10, right? Like that's obvious. That's why $10 was an obvious pullback. It then holds for, this is day 1. What you really want, if you're trying to get this tomorrow or maybe later on in the week, is you want to see a pullback that gives you maybe, like 750, something obvious like that, pulling back, consolidating 750, holding the previous high at 650, like just going sideways for a day or two, making everyone think it's done, and then it goes back up again and retests 10. I think that's what you're waiting for now. Like, where is it going to consolidate? Maybe not jumping in front of a falling knife today, but if you can catch something maybe tomorrow morning off 750 or 650, one of those two levels looks like it should be good. Those are the ones I'm almost guaranteeing you I'll write those two numbers down and be looking for those two shorts those two longs in Revlon tomorrow if we get them. I do want to talk about AMC just a little bit here, because this is me on AMC all morning long. It's like, yeah, we'll go for that 1485 break that was this high, and let's just not play it to 1530, Neil. Instead, let's just get out here, try to hold through a break of the high, end up stopping out break even, and I am still bidding. This is me, ho-hum, still waiting, trying to go long. I'll go ahead and cancel that order, but AMC, I should be in this one. However, you got to move on to the next trade, and the next trade is going to be pretty obvious, right? Like the first, we had that level break from last week's top, 1485. Now you're just looking at this 1530, right? Like the next gap fill, 1525, 1530, AMC, pretty clean to 16. Not a ton of time for that move to work with only 20-something minutes here to go. But I mean, if we get anything close to this or off 15, I think that's the next level up there for AMC. I could try a baby long. Why not? I'll go baby long if I can get like 30s to 32s there. I want something that I can take into 350 here. AMC looks pretty strong, up 5.5%. I don't know what the box office leader was this week because it was Caravana weekend. So I was out on Friday, probably didn't get enough sleep. But I haven't been to a movie in a while, though I hear the box offices have been pretty good. You guys let me know, like, what's the actual big movie that came out this weekend that was any good?
I heard that the new Top Gun is Paramount's largest ever grossing movie.
Like what? Like a really?
Yeah, all time. I could be wrong. Correct me on this.
Daniel.
That's just something that I just briefly heard. I could be wrong on that.
Is that
but
true?
Paramount, not all time. I'm talking about Paramount specifically, their largest grossing movie. I could be wrong, but I mean, right now, what do you got? You got Thor, Thor looks actually pretty good.
Thing,
Thor looks actually pretty good. I haven't seen that yet, but then again, I mean, do I really go to movies? I find my movies in different ways.
I got Disney Plus, man. I'm gonna wait for that to hit Disney Plus. And that's the crazy thing about it. Disney, like, if you insist on putting it in the theater, man, like when it comes on theatrical release, you could just rob me and I'd watch it at home for extra money. I already got the account. If you just make it so easy that I could click a button and do the same thing people are doing in the theater, I'll probably pay more money. I think a lot of people would too, but Disney's not listening to me, but I'm listening to Brendan.
I was just trying to find the latest number. $1.292 billion. It's the first. Not only is it Paramount's biggest movie, it's the first ever $1 billion grossing movie in the theaters, guys. So yeah, monstrous for Tom Cruise.
Oh, come on. Sorry.
I mean, if the man's hanging off a plane,
That wasn't for
I'll throw some respect on Tom Cruise because I mean,
he's crazy.
yeah, he's crazy. I appreciate that, the fact that he's like a Jackie Chan, but like more intense, obviously. Well, Jackie Chan's got more skill in terms of. Anyways, we don't need to go down
Jackie
that
Chan's
road.
a professional martial.
Yeah, that
Tom
like
Cruise.
the fact that they both do their own stunts, that's pretty cool. Respect on that.
Like I've heard, you hear the stories about like when he gets like seriously hurt. There was the one where he did that underwater thing in one of the Mission Impossibles, and it's like that dude's really holding his breath in the water for that long. Yeah, that seems safe, man. Let's just do that with like the big
He only
$1 billion
because of what he's done. He only
Yo,
need
he's-
2 movie franchises.
So honestly, like I have so much respect for that. Like it's actually cool and refreshing. The guy's got balls of steel. You're not going to see me do that. Like I could be like, you can pay me whatever you want. I ain't holding my breath underwater, like trying to die just so everyone can be entertained in the movie, man. Get your entertainment somewhere else. Get it with HKD breaking $600 right now.
I'm just waiting. I was going to say it too.
603.90.
Oh, of course it is. I was going to wait for Fahad to say that he can do it better than Tom Cruise. And you know what? All I had to do was wait 10 seconds and he said it.
I got, first of all, by the way, like I'm actually, since I've been sitting in this thing, I didn't even bother having a trailing stop on AMTD. Yeah, I need to actually throw a stop on the rest of this because this is actually getting ridiculous. I will get up. With 190 breaks, I'm short at 89s. Like, forget about it. Like, if we break that, I'm just going to get out of here because it's 340. HKD is going absolute gangbusters. Like, $600? Really? This stock, maybe it does go to 1,000. Maybe it just... It feels like nobody wants to, it doesn't really want to sell until it does something stupid. By the way, this VRAX got back above VWAP there, another one worth watching. I only point this one out because if you look at the 9 break went to 11, and that's sort of, if you can kind of look at it from, I can do, I want to zoom in, not out. And then I can't pull it, really? Can't pull it over. Anyways, if you look on the way to the downside, look at it, it's after 5 whatever halts downside, it tries to hold up here at 11. Right, so 11 ends up being a top, and then you had a bottom end of that range, which is right at $9, wick bottom. So anytime I'm looking for a breakout, that's why long the double top 9, which is this bottom here, you guys can see that, and then my out's going to be right at 11. Does it eventually go further? Yeah, probably could play an 11 break. But it's interesting because it's back above that 11. So it just based out at 10, higher low than that 9 break, and then now trying to hold and close above $11. If it does that, it's going to set up for maybe a long 10, 11, something into 14 yesterday, or so tomorrow morning, assuming it can actually hold $10. So VRAX, another one worth watching, and you just can't write these off. Even if it feels like they've capitulated and come back in, you've got to go back and look at it. Like, that's a 100%. This stock was at 480 or whatever it was, went down to 260. You're like, yeah, it's done. Well, don't sleep on it when it comes back up, puts in a higher low at the same support from Friday. It may seem crazy, and the price is absolute and utter nonsense, and there's no way the company's worth it. I don't even know what they do, but there's no way it's worth that. But it did hold 350. That is a pure technical move. It then consolidates higher and breaks out from Friday's high. That's just a technical setup, guys. You've got to be able to look at it and say there's opportunities there if you are going to trade it. We don't mind talking about anything, wins, loses. Anything that we see, we'll give you our advice for it. The only thing we ask is that you hit that like, hit that subscribe. Always a lot of fun. And by the way, I also wanted to give a big thank you. There were a lot of gifts of the memberships today. So all the people that were gifting memberships, that's super cool. We never ask for anything but throwing us a like. It's really cool when we have people out there sharing and giving more memberships out there. Like I said, all we ask for is like, and enjoy yourself. Tell your friends about it. Every now and then, if you see me do something stupid, call me out for it, like not getting Revlon long earlier, or maybe not just closing my eyes and punching HKD long, because that would have been okay for 33%.
Yeah, I'm going through the chat. D-Money, I'll ask Fahad, who's a better futures trader, once he can explain to me what futures are. But for now, like Neil said, all we need are just likes. And I noticed that we have 4,500 people watching. Throw up a like for HKD? I don't know. I mean, at this point, with the way HKD is, it's halted. It just halted. And it did this yesterday too, right? Halted and opened for the final, not yesterday, on Friday. It opened for the final print after 4 o'clock. So HKD's taken off to the upside. Listen, this is like Neil mentioned, when he mentioned this, I was like, what? He's like, oh, this is a technical setup. I'm like, I don't know about you, but I don't know how I can play a technical setup with a spread the way it has. Like the spread was like $30, man.
I know, but look how clean. Okay, come on. Like, look how clean this is. Halt, top, breakout, support, afternoon high, support again. This top, like really. Breakout, sorry, rejection, same low, breakout high. I mean, that's not as clean, but afternoon support, break it, don't break the level to the downside, then hold the higher low, then break. Like what? Like a stock with a float this small with a spread like that is probably trading like 100 times more than it's worth, you might not think would follow it. But what that tells me is there are people that don't care and are going to swing it respecting this, knowing that the payout's going to work. Because I'll tell you this right now, people aren't making money shorting this stock. There's no way. The locates are too expensive. You're run over the second you get into the short. Like, Oh, so, maybe you were short in the pre-market there. You had to sit in it at like 400, have it go up to 460 on you, crap your pants a little bit, and then get paid out to the bottom. Yeah, you're going to have some shorts that are winning. People are cranking it, going to the long side and making money on these breaks. And it's these tighter consolidation breaks that I think make the most sense. Like that long and this long are a lot harder than that little tight consolidation long on Friday, the 256 one or whatever it was that we were talking about. That long where you're risking like 15 bucks and it just pays you 100. Like this long here where it's again higher lows showing you bullish chart, and then here's your consolidation, there's your 481 break. Here's the thing, like you're getting like 482, 483 long, and this stop is probably a little closer to 440, 430. That is $50 worth of risk. But you know what? It just paid off 3-1. And then now you're in a halt with a chance for even more than that. So 15 minutes to go. HKD once again is just an unbelievable runner. And the reason why I'm doing this is to remind myself that it is just a stock that people and algos are trading, looking at the technicals, because there's nothing fundamental about this that makes any sense. That's all it is. And if you can remember that, then you can apply the same thing to it. Obviously, it's a bigger bankroll and the spread's crazy and the risk isn't for everybody, but you can try to apply the same principles to it you would as anything else. I make this analogy all the time because I love poker. Well, Phil Ivey's just better than people, but not all poker players that are professionals are better at the game and win because they understand pot odds or betting patterns or anything like that better than the average person. Most people can understand hand ranges and sort of proper bet variation, like all of these things and the odds. A lot of it is the kind of thing you can learn and get better at. But you know what sets them apart is Phil Ivey can make the correct decision or read in a $100 pot or $1 million pot. And that's it. And that's the same thing here with HKD. Like, I'm not trading it. But if you have the ability to apply some of the same principles to it, yeah, eventually you can get to the point where you're like, it just doesn't scare the living crap out of me. Now, I'm not going to short the stock. If it gets to 1,000, maybe I'll change my mind. But you've got to be able to look at this and sort of have a level head and understand it's just points, it's just a setup. And just ask yourself, like, if you find a good trading setup and the risk reward applies, can you put the trade on? That's all that matters. I'm just in this Intel. The market doesn't seem to want to roll over, but it did pay me out to the 3680 again. So this has been pretty clean, just giving you that 20-cent range. And were we to fall over and reject the highs here today and flush into the close, I will be holding on to Intel. I'm going to have a stop, however, as we're getting close to the imbalances. I will make sure I have my stop in. Don't want this going out past that 37. Just in case the imbalances come by side.
Yeah, imbalance is coming out in about less than 4 minutes or so. So one thing that I just want to put out with HKD being in the news and all these, the crazy stocks moving. I know Kai or Caitlin, you've had the position since 19 or something like that. You've had it for a while. So unless you're positioned so well where you can actually sit back and just kind of cash out and just watch it go, the longer it does this, the more riskier it gets, right? On Friday, Neil said 250, great trade. I wasn't paying attention, but here we are at 250, taking off to the upside towards 500. You get into 500, it gets real messy because now everyone's eyes on it, and the spreads are bigger, and just takes off to the upside. The longer it does this, obviously entertainment value shoots through the roof here now because HKD is doing something that it hasn't done. Here it is open. What are we open at? Somewhere around 50 something?
Well, it's at 80s now.
It's at 80s now on the offer. There goes 700 on, no, 699 on the offer.
I'm just going to punch out of AMTD.
Okay, I thought you said you were going to punch in. I was like, what? No. But anyways, entertainment value is through the roof on HKD, but if you're making your money somewhere else, don't get too caught up with stuff like this. It's nice to watch and be like, oh man, this is crazy. But at the same time, focus on where you make your money, because this is one of those things where it's nice to watch, but can get very expensive real quick. We just put in a brand new high here, a 708.99. Oh, no, never mind. That's gone.
Just to tell you this, out of an abundance of caution, I'm not even making this up because I don't intend on trading the stock.
Oh, he's changed his.
I'm not making it up. I actually assigned a default share size of 0 to HKD. So that if I pull this stock up and I'm switching things and I accidentally hit a key, I'm not saying that that's the kind of thing that happens often, but believe me, you trade long enough and do what we're doing, flipping back and forth, it wouldn't be, it's happened before. You just a keystroke error. I cannot make a keystroke error and execute into shares of stock. My default is literally set to 0, just in case it were to happen. I'd have to consciously change it to even get into position. And actually, it's really cool at Day Trade the World. One of the things that you can do is any manager on the trading floor, any trading floor at Day Trade the World, actually has the ability, not just have your buying power and you have your risk, you can set individual share size limits by stock. So you could restrict the trader on your floor. Like if this stock is going crazy, you could set a limit so that nobody could trade more than like 50 shares or 100 shares on it, no matter what their buying power was. And let me tell you, I know traders that have been trading a long time that will use that in special situations because they don't want the worst to happen. They don't want to go, especially when Amazon was like $2,500.
Yeah.
There are traders that would do that because they didn't want to use their buying power accidentally into something like that. Brendan?
There was a note on space here, guys. The FAA posting an updated commercial space transportation license for Virgin Galactic. So big volume spike there for space.
All right, you guys were asking for imbalances. The imbalances coming out in about 30 seconds, so I'll do a quick rundown. Imbalances essentially give you an indication of how much needs to be bought and sold on the official closing price after 350. So everyone puts in an order that needs to be executed at the end. Everyone gets to see what the values are after 350 when New York and NASDAQ and, all of North America releases the imbalance for dissemination. So if you have a broker, they have it somewhere. The data is out there. It's just a matter of how are they displaying the data. We should get that update in about 3 seconds. We'll see. It shouldn't be that big, but it is, here we go, a positive.
Apple buy, Intel's a buy. I got to punch it.
Okay, Apple buy side 1.1, Intel buy side 915, and then that's it. So that was fun, but that was only one stock above 1 million shares, and that's going to be Apple.
I have one position on with short Intel, and the entire market full of imbalances, and Intel's number 2 on the imbalance locator. Like, what are the odds? And it was sitting in the money the whole time, just sort of waiting for there to be a sell imbalance, and then it could have followed through. I just punched out. I didn't even let it get back to negative. It got close to break even on Intel. I would show you that chart, but HKD just halted 767 to the upside. I was joking when I said $1,000, by the way. I was joking. It doesn't seem so funny now. It just seems absolutely unbelievable. That's all I got to say. Like this break, it's breathtaking, really, when you think about what this stock has done. Like when we started talking about this thing, it was maybe $60, $70. 70, 80 break, and now look at it. But here's the thing. It's done 400,000 shares worth of volume. It just looks great, but the actual risk to reward is incredibly difficult if you make one mistake or you're off base just by a little bit. Lots of entertainment to be had, and that's the difference between playing it outside of a range which is, I'm not even saying reasonable, but at least more controlled, or trying to chase a move like this to the upside. Like once it's already gone through that break and it's traveled $100, the amount of risk that you're putting on in that trade doesn't make any sense. The people that have made a trade that I think made some sense was when it broke out this top here, and maybe they found a way to risk 40, 50 bucks, which is 10% ultimately, to then try to go 3 to 4x, and they've just gotten paid out. That might make some sense there, but liquidity I still think is a gigantic concern. I'm not really sure how that one works. Eventually it's going to come down. You know it's true. We all know this is going to fall at some point. It just hasn't happened yet. And remember I said, I'm not even waiting for, this move is so ridiculous, I'm not even waiting for AMTD to get to the high. I'm just going to punch out myself. Yeah, I could have waited for my 190 stop. That would have been stupid. However, doesn't even break the high from the last 2 days. Friday's pre-market high, Thursday's high is not broken. Well, you just saw the other one almost double up. HKD almost doubled up there. 400 yesterday's close up to 767. AMTD is barely moving. They got a huge stake. I will come in and I will short this again tomorrow, but not right now, Brendo.
These other 2 5-letter symbols also back to day highs. Worth noting maybe for tomorrow, this one as well, AMC guys, right at day highs, having quite the day, up 6% as well for AMC.
All right, going back to HKD, keep in mind, this HKD did this on Friday as well, where they halted in the final little bit. So the opening, coming out of the halt, the opening print is going to be the final closing price. So the official closing price, or we know how I was talking about imbalances and the on-close orders and blah, 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 that's going to be your opening, coming out of the halt, that's going to be opening print. So we saw this on Friday where it was just after 4 o'clock. It didn't happen right at 4, but the official open, opening off the halt and the official close are going to be the same price. So given that we're halted right here at the end, it's going to be whatever the price is, whatever it opens at, that's going to be the price that the market officially closes at for this stock. Keep in mind, there's going to be other venues that are going to keep trading, like Arca and Bats and EdgeX and whatnot. Will probably still be there, but the volatility is going to be, the spreads are going to be nuts.
NASDAQ.
And NASDAQ. It's going to be there, but it's just spreads are going to be absolutely nuts. So I'd just be very careful on how you handle it. If you want to get out, whatever the opening or whatever the halt price ends up being when they finally open back up, and deal with tomorrow, send an on-close sell and just deal with whatever the price they give you. At the moment, they're saying 767.03, but that's where we close. So we don't really have much volume coming in right now towards the end. We saw yesterday, on Friday, did it not open below 420 something? Because we were like, oh, Prad's gonna be wrong. So it gapped down on the final close. So just be aware that we're sitting at 767. It could gap down easily south of 700 on the open. So, well, on the open, which is the close, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so just to clarify, there's always an official closing print, which is the closing auction in whatever market, like the NASDAQ in New York. It's a closing auction. But because the stock is halted, that closing auction will actually be it reopening. So like that auction will be the reopen of the stock at 4 o'clock. But that reopen price is the official closing print on the NYSE for HKD, then it'll trade. Hopefully that makes some sense there. I mean, that's what you just said. I'm just repeating it so everyone understands. I'll be glued to it because, heck, man, it's about as entertaining as it gets. I just wrote down the levels I went over on AMC on my iPad just so I wouldn't forget that I'm going to come in tomorrow and I'm going to look at this. That's at 1480. That's where we broke out here today. 1480 to 15 for support. 1530 for like a consolidation long, that's where it would be the starter, and then that plays up to about $16. I like this. You got higher lows, you're breaking out of consolidation. I want to see if it can continue it for a second day. We do have a few earnings to get to. I see the board is locked and loaded, ready to go. Brendan, what do we have on tap for tomorrow morning's earnings?
Yeah, it's going to be more exciting, obviously, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, but let's get into what we can look at tomorrow morning, as you said.
Oh, it's Neil's favorite stock. It's Kellogg's, guys.
Rice Krispies. What else they got? Like Corn Flakes, all the other good stuff. But yeah, the more important and probably more exciting earnings are coming on later on in the week. But you can always get some of these, whether it's like bellwether for a sector like a Kellogg's, which will give you that. Global Payments might give you some ideas for some other sectors as well. Santander might give you an idea in the financial sector. But it really comes like this week, I'm excited to see what happens with AMD. Not going to lie. Pinterest we're going to get as well. Pins should be definitely an interesting one just because they're sitting on the precipice of absolute either disaster or a potential gigantic breakout, right? Like that's pretty clear to see. Like any time a stock, which is as beaten up in the last God knows how long, whatever the bear market started or whatever those highs were, Pinterest has been beaten up, but it's been within this tight consolidation for quite some time now. It actually had a day where it took the entire range, top to bottom, 24 to 16, and we're still in that range. And we even had a day where we broke that all the way to the upside. So it's pretty clear, like 24 top, 16 bottoms on Pinterest. Everything in between is boring. Everything on the outside of it's going to be super exciting when we finally get this one. So I'm excited for pins. HKD goes without saying. Remember, I don't think Revlon is necessarily done. A lot of times you get to that double top at 10. Well, what did it do last time? It pulled off 10s. And then put in, see what that consolidation is, put in that low at 4, eventually broke back up, went halfway to 6, and then double bottomed at 4 and ran. So I'm expecting somewhere, whether it's 650, whether it's 750, somewhere in this range, if it dips into that price, we'll be playing off that long. And if it consolidates long enough, I think it can make another run at that $10 level. It's about the short interest. It's about the momentum. So it's not, when you trade something like this, you gotta, when you take the long, you gotta think about not the fundamentals of it, but just the fact that it's short interest and everyone's going to look at these sort of bullish chart patterns and then try to go for longs in front of them, and you want to take advantage of that psychology. And then also remember that it is very cheap, relatively speaking, for traders to short the stock. And when that is true, lots of day traders are like, this makes no sense. I'm shorting in front of $10. And then guess what? When they stop out, that's good for the longs because that gives some of that upward pressure as well. I've been trying to do a better job of not getting run over as often and trying to catch a few of those longs, which I think I'm better at. I didn't get run over on Revlon once today, although I did miss a short off 10. I should have had it.
Yeah, let's go back to imbalances. We're in the final 2 minutes here. We'll take a look at the imbalances. Let's see what the 355 update from the floor gives us. Well, there goes Apple. Apple's gone. HPE is here as the biggest buy of 821K. I mean, I don't know what HPE is, but it's there. It's also not large enough for me to care. LUMN is there as well. BBD, Visa. Visa's always here. Visa's always here, then always disappears. So for now, these are one of the smallest imbalances you're going to really see for end of day stuff. All sub-million shares, all relatively non-significant. It's just one of those things where it's August, things are starting to quiet down. Things might pick up though in the next few days if we get some action, geopolitical action, but for the time being, things are slow. We've got, as Brendan said earlier today, we've got some reports on Friday that we got to pay attention to in terms of the jobs report. Let's see what that means for potential Fed action later on. But for the time being, we're getting quiet action across the board. BBD is getting somewhat bigger here as we get into the final minute of the day. And I'm looking back over there. Who's at the bell? We got nobody at the bell. Maybe Fahad's going to have to go on the bell here.
Randy's around here somewhere. Where's Randy? Randy left already? We got 30 seconds to go, and no one's going to be on the bell. I'm flat. I can ring the bell. I can do it if you want to do the countdown.
Oh, Greg's doing it. Greg's
going to ring the bell. You got see the last time I got to ring the bell one time, and it's like a little bit of a stage. So I got to jump and do the Thor or whatever you call it, the Superman punch thing.
Did you pull a hamstring?
I didn't pull a hamstring, man. My knee hurt a little bit afterwards, but I didn't pull a hamstring. But with about 15 seconds to go, trading floor manager Greg is going to be on the bell. So let's drop the countdown. Been a fun start to the week. Get him on camera. He's making faces there. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and ring it, Greg.
What a difference from Randy, huh?
I know. He's nice and subdued. Greg is dressed exactly how you need to be when you come in to risk manage on a Canadian holiday, right?
Yeah.
He's dressed like he should be. It looks like we opened
up.
Oh,
it opened.
It opened down, it looks like to me, on
it opened
HKD.
down last time too.
And then got to 867. There was an 800 print just now. Not a lot. I want to say not a lot of shares. It was at 760, and somebody just marked it up. Maybe someone got 100 shares there at 800.
Is the offer really 1,000 right now?
Yeah. Well, no, the offer is not 1,000.
949 on the
100
level one.
lots. So there's sub 100 lots. Yeah, you're right. The only 100 share lot on the offer in this stock is at 949.
Yeah.
Everything else is sub 100. You're right about that, Arun. Crazy. So HKD once again. I love this stock. It's just pure entertainment here. I have not had a trade in it, but I can at least trade AMTD every single day because there's always something out there for you guys. Fantastic show as always. For all his trash talk, Fahad, fantastic job. Lucas, wishing the best. Hopefully he'll be back pretty soon, but doing a great job. And then helped out by Randy, who broke our eardrums today. There's Maggie making her appearance once again. As always, waiting till it's like 4 o'clock to get the appearance so that she can be put on camera. Or not. Maybe not. No, not going to do it. There she is. There's Fahad. There's Maggie. Arun, great job filling in once again for my man Sean, who is back tomorrow. His long weekend is over. We'll find out how the T-ball team did, which I'm sure was absolutely fantastic. Midday doing a great job as always. I see Lucas still in the building. He's got his Bass Pro hats on. And as usual, Brendan doing a great job getting us all the news. I see Pinterest is on the move already.
Yeah, small correction, guys. Pinterest out. So it wasn't on the board, but earnings are out, and it's moving higher right now for pins. But quick look there at how we wrapped up the day. Some negativity bottom of the board, crude oil, Bitcoin, Ethereum. We'll see how tomorrow shapes up. Equity's pretty flat, though.
Yeah, Neil and Sean back tomorrow, so you guys got your dynamic duo back. I'll be gone. I believe I'll come into the office on Friday, actually. I got to take care of some stuff downtown. So I'll be in on the office, but after that, your boy's gone. Next week, midweek, I'm going on vacation. I'll see you guys in late September after that.
That's what we talked about. You got to be able to pay yourself both with time off and reward yourself with your trading. Look, you got to live your life. And I made the mistake early on in my career of never taking vacation for 10 years. It's just not the right way to go, man. It's better for your mental. Get some time off, get recharged. But everybody come back tomorrow morning. The bangers will be here. Sean will be back. We'll be in the chair, locked and loaded, ready to go to trade a host of earnings and have another fantastic week from the entire team at Trader TV Live. We will see you tomorrow, 8:30.